54 starters. There are two notable non-starters, the Peter Stuyvesant race team, Greg Hansford and Lucio Cesario, whose car ran into problems yesterday, was unable to be repaired in time, and Bob Morris and John Fitzpatrick, their problems have already been covered. Let's go down to the grid now to Evan Green.
Practice was marked by a number of high-speed crashes, but the fastest involved the Tasmanian driver Clive Benson-Brown. What happened, Clive?
Oh, Evan, we came under the bridge at the end of Conrod and...
How fast?
Oh, about 168 mile an hour. A gust of wind just took the back of the car, front wheel locked, and it just went sideways into the fence at that speed. We carried on for about 400 yards, ended up inside the bottom Amco. A lot of the panels were damaged. The crew worked all night, and now the car's perfect.
How are you?
Oh, yeah, no problems at all. I'm looking forward to the race.
Any effect on your nerves? It must have had some effect. That's the fastest crash anyone has ever survived here at Bathurst.
It shook me a little yesterday at the end of the straight. It was very hard to go in deep, but now I've got over it, and we're looking good today.
Clive Benson-Brown from Tasmania. Another driver who's looking good is Gary Rogers. He's on the 5th position on the 3rd row of the grid. Gary, for a number of years, people probably put you in the 2nd rank of drivers because you didn't have the right sorts of cars. Today, you're right up with the leaders and you could win the race.
Yeah, that's probably true, Evan. It's very, very hard, particularly in touring car racing, if you haven't got the right equipment. The recar cars are obviously the right equipment. You know, it just makes it so much easier.
Now, you're a real sprinter. What are your tactics for the race?
Well, excuse me, Ron Wanless is starting the race. I'll get in at the first stop, and from then on, well, I will sprint. The car's strong enough to do it, and I believe that this race will be run as a sprint race anyway, and if you don't sprint, you certainly won't be in the contention at the end.
You'll drive the last 2 sessions?
Yes, I will.
A long stint then for you?
Yes, it is, Evan, but I did it last year, and I think I can do it again this year, all right?
Right, confident words from Gary Rogers.
Endurance racing calls for speed, style, and stamina. But driver Peter McLeod, who's driving a Mazda, has a 4th asset on which this team is concentrating: strategy. Where most of the bigger cars, the winning cars, have always made 4 pit stops, his team plans a 2 pit stop race. What's that going to mean along the way, Peter?
Well, it's going to mean we'll probably have to run a little slower during the running of the race. But a pit stop here can be anything up to 3 to 4 minutes by the time you slow down on your slowdown lap, get into the pits. There's usually a problem, then you've got to get out. Now, 3 to 4 minutes is a lap each time. In 2 laps, we're not that far behind that we can't, that the others, we can get away from them on 2 laps.
You have a forecast of where you'll be hour by hour. How does that look?
We're hoping it's good. We would like to be, after 2 hours, we would like to be around 16th, about 16th, 17th. I think that would be good. We should be around 8th or 7th, we hope, with 4 hours gone. That'll put us in a reasonable position to run the last 2 hours to the finish. Both the drivers, that's Peter Dane and myself, are driving at the same pace. The car hasn't had a hiccup all weekend, and we're very happy.
What's an optimistic evaluation of what finish you'll have?
Anything 5 up, obviously. That's where we'd like to be. Anyone in the top 5 is a chance.
Okay, a man with a strategy, hoping for 5th or better in the James Hardie 1000 today.
Just 12.5 minutes to the start of the James Hardie 1000. Alan Moffat adjusting his belts. Alan, what goes through your mind at a moment like this?
How to answer an intelligent question to a TV reporter. Oh, what goes through my mind? I know I have a terrifically prepared car. My team have worked hours and hours, thousands and thousands of hours since this time last year. We've done everything we can, we know. Our partners in Japan have helped us with everything they know. And I'm sitting here knowing that I've got one of the finest RX-7s in the world to participate in this great race.
You're also carrying an enormous responsibility on your shoulders.
Well, I've been doing that for many years, so I think I'm sort of half accustomed to that, but I'm very aware of the support we get from our sponsors, and to Peter Stuyvesant and everyone in that company, the Rothmans company, that have been so kind to me personally. Martin, thanks.
Alan Moffat, back to you, Chris Economaki.
At the end of the year, it will be the big name change, international world.
There's the scene on Pit Straight at Mount Panorama. The minutes ticking away, final moments before the start of the 1982 James Hardie 1000 Classic. Let's take a look through some of the grid positions before the race. We've updated the field for you. We're delighted this year to be joined by Texas Instruments, who are supplying our scoring service. You'll be able to follow the race courtesy of their scorers throughout the day. As pointed out, position 1, the Grice Brown Commodore. Car number 5 starting out of position 2, the Brock Perkins entry. The Bluebird 56, Hasimi and Hoshino. From position number 4, the 9 Network Camaro, Kevin Bartlett and Colin Bond. Position number 5, the Commodore 16, the Ron Wanless, Gary Rogers. Out of position number 6, car number 17, Dick Johnson and John Frentz of Queensland. From position number 7, Mazda number 43, the Peter Stuyvesant entry, Alan Moffat and Katayama. From position number 8, the Commodore number 25, the second of the Marlborough Holden dealer team cars, John Harvey and Gary Scott. Position number 9, the second of the Nissan Bluebird Turbos, George Fury and Freddie Gibson. Out of position number 10, Commodore number 22, the Cullen Cook entry. Out of 11, another Commodore number 15, Terry Finnegan and Gates. Out of position number 12, Commodore 21, Harrington and Wigston. Number 13 position goes to the Jaguar, number 10, John Goss, and of course the American Tullis. Let's go back now to the track and to Chris Economaki.
The surprise car of Bathurst 1982 has been the Nissan Bluebird in practice and in qualifying. Team driver Fred Gibson. Fred, what has made the car so much faster this year than before?
Well, last year, Chris, the car was a mad dog, in my words. It was really a bad car. It was the first time we've run the car in the world here, and it didn't handle, it didn't have the horsepower it has this year. And with those two sort of things going into the car now, that's why it's sort of 12 seconds faster.
During qualifying, one of the cars blew an engine. And at the top of the hill, it was a second faster than Grice's pole-winning time. Were you guys shooting for the pole?
Yes, really, we were. We had the boost screwed right up, and it didn't blow an engine, actually, Chris. It blew a turbo. And I think really because we had the boost screwed fairly full up.
Okay, they're the only turbo cars in the race, and screwing up the boost in layman's language means increasing the turbocharger pressure and thus increasing the horsepower. Can you do this during the race, up it and reduce it?
No, Chris, the regulations here say we must have a set boost, which today we're running what we call a 1.4 boost. Yesterday in practice we run 1.8 boost. So like we've lost from yesterday's qualifying about sort of 50 horsepower on the car.
So what do you think you'll do when it's all over?
If we're here at the finish of the day, the company will be tickled pink, and to be in the top 10 today, they are really happy about that now, and we'll be in an outright place at the end of the day.
Well, good luck to you, Fred.
Thanks,
Fred Gibson and the only turbocharged team in the race, the Nissan Bluebirds.
The spoiler on the back of the Falcons has been causing some controversy because it doesn't seem to be holding the cars on the road. The man who suffered is Dick Johnson. You're back on the grid a bit, Dick. What's the trouble with the handling?
Well, it's not so much the handling, Evan. It's just the car in a straight line over the humps and that at high speed down the straight is very, very unstable, mainly due to the fact that the aerodynamics of the rear spoiler aren't working efficiently at all.
Now, does that mean you'll have to back off on the straight?
No, it can be very, very dangerous, basically, when you have other cars around you, which is probably the worst part of the whole thing. I think when you're by yourself and there's no wind, you can control it, but heaven knows what's going to happen with a couple of cars around.
How fast are you going down the straight?
Well, on Wednesday when we got here, we were doing somewhere around 180 mile an hour, but we're a little bit off the pace at the moment for some reason.
Well, you're carrying one of the cameras. You're linked with the Prudential helicopter. You've got the microphone to tell us what happens. Let's know how it's going on the straight. And how are you going to drive these first laps, Dick? Because you're back on the grid, what, 3-4 rows?
Well, I'll drive the first few laps the same as I'll drive the rest of the 159, flat out.
Dick Johnson speaking there with Evan Green. We're 7 minutes away from the start of the great race, and we'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, to set the 1982 great race in motion, we have a distinguished visitor from the United States. President of the NASCAR Racing Organization, owner of the Daytona International Speedway, the Grand Marshal for the 1982 James Hardie 1000, Mr. Bill France, Jr.
Thank you, Gary. It is now time that everyone has been waiting for to start the James Hardie 1000. Gentlemen, please start your engines.
the scene now. Final few moments in the build-up to the start of the 1982 James Hardie 1000 Classic. Race cam set inside Dick Johnson's car. Shows Johnson sitting at the wheel calmly.
The adrenaline would really be pumping now, though, Mike. The two drivers at the front. Alan Grice on pole position on the inside of the circuit. Peter Brock alongside him. Both would like to be first away. It would get them clear of the tangle of traffic, so they'll make a great battle for it. Right behind them, Kevin Bartlett. Immediately behind these two, this champion pair. Kevin in the big Camaro. He'll try and get away quickly, get round them if he can. The Japanese driver, Hosseini. Dick Johnson way back on the line in the fourth row of the grid. 1 minute to go. A last nervous tug of the chin strap. You can expect the big V8s to go hard from the line. Alan Grice will really put his foot down. A couple of drivers had to take care. We know that the Camaro is hard off the line. We know that there's Kevin Bartlett. What's going through his mind? He won this race way back in 1974. Johnny Harvey, who's never won the race, would dearly love to. A delightful bloke, ambitious, chewing gum on the far side of him. We saw George Fury, his Japanese teammate, Yoshini Hosseini. Great driver, 30 seconds to go. The turbo may not be too quick off the mark. The Mazdas have to be careful of their gearboxes. They are a bit vulnerable. They'll take it a bit easy, but the V8s will go hard from the start.
05-25, the Marlboro dealer team cars. Flag is up now. Stand by for the start of the 1982 great race.
Engines start to rev. Flag at the ready. The start of the 1982 James Hardie 1000 Classic, and Alan Grice on the inside. Selects the gear that gets into the first corner quicker than Peter Brock. One up on the inside, trying to crowd as all the cars make their way into the first left-hand corner.
Moffat has made a great start, but has gone wide. So are many cars trying to consolidate their positions, and it's a mad scramble on the first lap up Mountain Straight.
Brock trying to get past Grice as they go up the mountain.
Here they come towards Mountain Straight, and we have a three-way dice going for the lead with Peter Brock, Alan Grice, and Kevin Bartlett moving up smartly in the 9 Camaro to keep in touch with them. Then we have Ron Wanless going through in car number 16. Grice stretching the legs of the Recar Commodore, heading up to the cutting.
Dick Johnson running in 5th place, heading this third group through. Close behind him, John Harvey. Then we have Alan Moffat. Up through the cutting, the steepest part of the track, a 1 in 6 grade, very steep there, severe, a hard grind on gearboxes, a full load of fuel, the adrenaline pumping in the drivers. Harvey right on the tail of Johnson there.
Wait for the cheers across the top of the mountain as Sydney's Alan Grice leads Peter Brock, then Kevin Bartlett in the 9 V8 Camaro down across McPhillamy Park. And it's Gricey. Brock right behind him. Back then to Kevin Bartlett. Gary Rogers is next. Dick Johnson. They were then followed by John Harvey and Alan Moffat.
Crowd rise to their feet as they tumble down the other side of the mountain. Brock right on Grice's tail. They've dropped Bartlett off by about 10 car lengths. Gary Rogers in the second Recar Commodore. Then Dick Johnson. Alan Moffat sandwiched in there.
First time to Conrod Straight. Grice is the leader. Very close to him, though, is Peter Brock.
Brock is perfectly placed to slipstream and pull out and pass, which he may do. He's pulling out now. He's got a bit of a toe now. It's just purely horsepower. Let's see how they go side by side. Lap 1 of the James Hardie 1000. Grice is still in front, but Brock is inching past him. The crowd down low in the circuit where they can see them coming straight out, rising to their feet, and the cheers are beginning already.
Braking's going to tell the difference.
There's $1,000 up for grabs too. Gregory's Auto Service manuals have $1,000 up for the driver.
Grice is going to hold him out.
And Grice is going to add to the total already of $15,000. He'll pick up $1,000 as he leads lap number 1 of the James Hardie. But Brock this time on the inside comes up the challenge, and we take race cam from the car as Brock goes through to take the lead away from Alan Grice and the Recar Commodore.
And you were there when he did it. Peter Brock carrying the race cam. Got by Alan Grice at the end of lap 1. There's the view out the back. Grice is making a charge up Mountain Straight. He's coming close. You can see. That's the passenger's view. Grice weaving around, picking up under tow. He's quick up the hill. Now he pulls on the inside. We'll follow him through. Oh, he can't quite hold him. Side by side they go the mountain. No, he says, I haven't got the legs. Tries again, has to brake. They're coming up towards Castrol Curve. Through they go. They went through fearfully quickly now. up towards the cutting. Brock's in front. Grice pulls out the pass. Comes up on the outside of him. Brock can see him. Grice is going through into the cutting. He's going hard and deep. A second gear corner this. A dab of brakes. Off with the brakes and hard. Who goes the wider? Brock in very close. Out wide to the fence. A little bit wider line. Up they come towards McPhillamy now. Up the mountain. And Brock is going on the inside. There's the crowd. And Peter Brock getting a great cheer as he goes to the top of the mountain. Grice, though, still in front. It's a two-car war between these long-time rivals. They are using up all the track and a little bit more. And it's, once again, Alan Grice who will lead across the top of the mountain. And the crowd are roaring with excitement. Inside the car with Peter Brock. He's working hard. Now he comes to Skyline, a frightening part of the circuit. Down he goes. Watch for the gear change. Right up on the tail of Alan Grice.
Oh, the pace is fearsome here. Standing lap off the start, full tanks of fuel, 125.94. Those speeds are coming down. The speeds are going up rather than the times are tumbling down as these two out in front go hammer and tong.
Tailgating is Peter Brock to Alan Grice. Grice leads down Conrod Straight, and now we'll see if Brock can pull aside.
He's almost too far back to get the aerodynamic effect because there is a region of calmer air there. We can just get into it. Lower pressure. He's closing a bit though. He is definitely closing. Now he's pulling out. He's got the slingshot effect. Side by side, but Grice is holding on. What a car he has. That three-car car flies. Side by side at something like 175, 180 miles an hour. There's Alan Grice watching Brock go by, but will he try and outbrake him? Yes, he will. Going a little deeper, coming towards the bridge, into the braking area. Grice says, I'll do it, thank you. Goes in a little deeper. Oh, that takes some nerve. It takes good brakes too.
Now this is where Brock passed on the last lap round. Can he do it again up pit straight? He pulls out. And once more pulls up alongside Alan Grice. No, he doesn't do it. Grice, he holds him out coming up to Hell Corner.
I think he's quite satisfied. He's had a little grab there for the lead. Now he's stretching the car. He sits in again behind Grice. Whether or not he'll have a shot coming up Mountain Straight again. The order is Alan Grice and the Recar Commodore leading from Peter Brock in 0.5. Kevin Bartlett back behind them.
4.5 seconds between second and third. Between Brock and Bartlett.
John Harvey has moved up into fourth place, just in front of Warren Wanless in car 16. Dick Johnson in 17 running in sixth place.
Through Castrol again. The run up the mountain. Alan Grice and the Recar Commodore. All Grice in the 1982 Classic thus far through qualifying and leading the first lap.
The Tasmanian driver, Garth Wixon, has come up very well right behind Johnson now, and that's an amazing drive for him. He started well out of the top 10 and he's now running in 7th place, so good news for you people in Tasmania. Garth Wixon up there in 7th and looking very good.
Wixton's made up 6 positions on the track off the starting grid. Great performance, but these two out front, what a fearsome pace they're setting.
The Commodores of the fleet, Alan Grice and Peter Brock. Again getting plenty of support from the folk on top of the mountain. Back inside the car again with Peter Brock as he...
Oh, they've been praying. 21 is the...
Stack's car has been involved, and we also have another one,
Triple M car, Terry Finnegan.
Is also involved there.
Yes, one of the cars with Garth Wixton's car. They have moved up into 7th place.
Looks like Barry Lawrence and Jeff Russell in the other car. Is it 28, the Commodore?
It looks like McPhillamy Park, the corner we were talking about before, and I think that's where they're hit. It really is a dangerous sort of part of the circuit.
Yes, car 28, that's the one. Barry Lawrence and Jeff Russell in the Commodore. Terry Finnegan and his Commodore, car 15.
Oh, what wretched luck. He had qualified so well up in the first 12.
And car 21 is the third vehicle involved in this pile-up, and that's Steve Harrington that we just mentioned, having moved up from 13th place on the grid.
And that has eliminated 3 Commodores in one touch.
And it's going to be extremely difficult also to move those cars with safety. We have one against the wall that you can see there on the inside of the circuit, and 2 parked against the concrete wall on the outside.
It's the cutting, I think. It's a little hard to pick from the vertical angle here. It looks like it is the BP cutting. Thank you very much, Dougie Hampson in the helicopter, showing us exactly where it was, just to confirm our remarks. Well, the pace still is being maintained with Alan Grice in front. And that sort of incident with 3 cars going in one touch could happen. The pace is so fierce, the competition so great that we could lose a few cars here today. They've never travelled so quickly. There's never been greater prize money. There's never been greater prestige. And therefore there has never been the pressure that these drivers are undergoing to do well in Australia's greatest car race. John Harvey up into 3rd place. He's passed Kevin Bartlett in the Camaro.
We have 3 Commodores out front at the moment. There you'll see the race leader, Alan Grice, come past the cutting. With Those cars are still embedded in the concrete wall. There's the gap. First and second have over John Harvey, who's running in third. Bartlett is fourth. Johnson is fifth. That group together as they head up to the top of the mountain. Now Bartlett finds himself under a little pressure from Dick Johnson. In mind, we've mentioned before that Bartlett's car was very badly damaged here in a practice shunt with Colin Bond early in the week. It's been totally rebuilt. Bartlett's been, I wouldn't say delighted with the handling of the car in practice yesterday. He's in there giving it a good shot at the moment.
Harvey's come up from 9th place on the grid now to be running in 3rd place, which is a remarkable move up. We've got cars in the pits already. There are 3 of them have come into the pits, so the pace is telling already. Johnson is just at the tail end of this group, running in 5th place. Wouldn't be too unhappy with that. He knows it's a long race. He'd love to win this race and see the checkered flag for the first time. He won last year, but of course the race was terminated early because of the crash at the top of the mountain, and he never got the accolades that he would have expected.
Citizen Commodore Greg Topfer is one of those cars in the pits at the present time.
A number of cars, the Mazda of John Duggan and Don Bradman, car number 34, running for Everlast, is also in the pits, and the pace out on the track is still as fast as ever. How many cars are going to survive this race? We saw some of the leading cars, 3 of the leading Commodores running 7th, 8th and 9th, all touch. Garth Wixon from Tasmania, Terry Finnegan from New South Wales, and the Queensland driver Jeff Lawrence. Bad luck for him. He was looking forward to a really good run here, but that's it. Only a couple of laps and out of the race.
Here's Johnny Harvey, Kevin Bartlett, Dick Johnson. The 3 of them in pursuit of the 2 men out in front, and that's Alan Grice and Peter Brock. Brock to Harvey, the gap is 9.5 seconds, but it's only 0.45 of a second between the race leader, Alan Grice.
Oh, there we have Ron Wanless, who was running as high as, 4th place at one stage.
That's right, Gary Rogers in the second car Commodore.
He's going into the pits, going back.
Going the wrong way back into the pits too.
Yes,
now whether or not...
he may be disqualified for this. It's absolutely illegal what he's doing, because there could be a car coming the other way. One of the officials is waving at it. You can see the agitation there. But Wanless is under a lot of pressure, had a problem. Whatever it was, wasn't prepared to do one full lap. He must, of course, so that's the rules. And they're trying to shuffle him off to one side of the track. Harvey already lapping cars. Number 60, Jim Fanico in the Gemini. 48 is off the track. Goodness me, the attrition. This Fred Geisler, the Commodore driver from Goulburn.
That's 4 Commodores gone.
I think he had Maxwell all by himself, gone off in the sand. You can see Fred there standing, very disconsolate. Only been, what, 6 laps into the sand, out of the race. Well, that's likely to happen. The faster you go, the bigger the risks, the less likely cars are to finish. It could be the year of the smaller cars if they can just keep out of the trouble.
There's the Rico machine that has gone into the pits. That's Ron Wanless.
He's going to have fun turning that round to get out of the pits again, if they let him out.
Yes, he will be severely spoken to, I'm sure, for coming in the wrong way. It could have been such a hazardous thing. He's in the pit, wrong way around, broken front. He's hit something, of course.
Talking about the smaller cars, Evan, you mentioned the Nissan Bluebird has seen me at the wheel, which started 3rd position on the grid, and slipped back to about 10th or 12th position at this stage.
That could have been expected, I think. It doesn't have the same power off the line, the turbo, as the V8s. The turbo needs a little bit of time to wind up. And Hosseini, who is a very experienced driver, will be quite happy to stay back there, just run his race, save his tyres, try and get by with 2 fuel stops. Howard Marsden, who's running the Nissan pit, is a very experienced driver. Look at the battle, by the way. Kevin Bartlett making a move up on John Harvey. He's got a very fast car in that Chevy Camaro. He knows he has the legs on anything in the field. Not the biggest motor. It's a few cc smaller than the 5.8 litre Falcon of Dick Johnson following right behind, but it is a quicker car. Let's go inside Dick Johnson's car and just see what sort of view he's getting. There's the instruments, the flick of the rev counter as he changes gear. That's the central instrument right in front of him. That's the most important one he's watching. Plank light, oil pressure gauge, water temperature. Dick Johnson looking at speaking to his pit. Roy is his chief mechanic. They talk to each other on 2-way radio. We can talk to Dick as well, but we won't interrupt at the moment.
Thank you.
There's a message from his mechanic, maybe telling him about what's happening among the others.
Meanwhile, Ron Wanless has effected repairs to the Commodore and has gone the right way out to rejoin the race.
Hosseini, we mentioned earlier, now has moved back up to 8th position on the track in the Bluebird and is right on the heels of Alan Moffat.
Yeah. Dick Johnson coming up towards the crash of the 3 Commodores, which are about to be cleared. You'll see the view from the driver's seat. Finnegan on the right and Garth Wixon on the left. We missed Jeff Lawrence's Commodore. They're the three that are involved. Losing out a little bit is Dick Johnson on the climb up the hill. Not quite the same speed up there. Maybe it's a question of gearing. You can see how Johnny Harvey is getting away from him, and Kevin Bartlett is following. Now, this is a part of the circuit that really tests the heart of a man. We will have a word to Dick Johnson in a while. Not just now, though. He's a little busy coming towards McPhillamy. You've got to get this dead right, or you're into that fence. He goes close. We'll let him go through the S's. Then we'll have a chat to Dick Johnson in the relative tranquility of the straight. Gee, he was quick through there. Made up a lot of ground. There's Dick Johnson, a great driver. Been driving now for, 17 years. Won the class here in a Ford Capri back in, 1976 with Graham Moore. He certainly moved on to more powerful machinery.
He's closed the gap again on Kevin Bartlett too. Well, if he can right on his tail.
If he can just keep on the tail of Kevin, we might have a word now to Dick Johnson. And if you're listening to us, Dick, just tell us what you're doing and whether you think you can keep up with this big Chevy right in front of you. Are you receiving us, Dick Johnson? Well, we can certainly see Dick. Whether he can hear us, I don't know. Evan Green here. Dick, can you hear us? I don't think we'll persist because he's getting to the braking area and we shouldn't talk to him there. That is the difficult part of the circuit. Look at the battle going on in front. Well, the greater legs of the big Camaro told on the Commodore. Now, Dick Johnson said, OK, he's been slowed a bit because obviously John Harvey would have liked to have gone deeper under brakes, but was blocked by the big dark blue car. The Ford fans cheering when they think that Dick Johnson is about to pass one of his arch rivals in the Marlborough Holden dealer team. Back in the car again. The picture, by the way, being beamed up to the Prudential helicopter flying above him to receive the picture. Dick still talking to his pits. He's linked up with them. Whether he can hear us, I don't know. We might just try again. This is one part of the circuit where we can speak to him with safety. If you're listening, Dick Johnson, the track looks very rough up towards this curve.
Yeah, very rough, Evan. And there's a fair sort of an accident up the top of in the cutting up here.
Hard on the heels of Peter Harvey. Harvey, in turn, hard on the heels of Kevin Bartlett. That passing manoeuvre by Bartlett under brakes must be enormously severe with the weight of that car on the braking system, Evan.
Yes, it would. The brakes are a factor in this race that these drivers have to be very careful of. They can't afford to cane them too much.
Peter Jansen in the Cadbury Schweppes Commodore, by the way, has been in and out of the pits twice with minor troubles. That's not doing him any good. Hassimi, by the way, has passed Alan Moffat and is up into 7th place.
Well, that'll be a great battle between those two Japanese makes, the Mazda RX-7 of Alan Moffat and Hassimi in the Turbo Bluebird.
The chopper whipping over the mountaintop, setting itself up for more great pictures that you'll be seeing throughout this James Hardie 1000 telecast today. The pilot, Terry Lee, cameraman Doug Hampson.
The Queensland RX-7, the Sibley's entry, just being passed there. The driver very courteously moved over to let them through, and the three big guns are on their way. Once again, the view from Dick Johnson's car. I don't know whether you're listening to us, Dick, but how are you on pace with these cars? How's the race going for you at the moment? Well, obviously it's going well, Mike. He's not talking to us at the moment, but goodness me, he had the legs in on John Harvey. Got by now. Will Harvey try and pass him under brakes, under the John player bridge? No, Harvey can't. So Harvey has been relegated from his 3rd position back to 5th place, and now Dick Johnson has in his sights the Chevrolet Camaro of Kevin Bartlett.
Bartlett running strongly at the moment. Johnson has made up ground. He was well back behind them, but has effectively pulled in Harvey, past Harvey. They both clip the exit to that corner, and now he moves in for the kill, perhaps, on Kevin Bartlett, although that V8 Camaro has plenty of grunt going up to the top of the mountain. And Harvey's back to put the pressure on and take Johnson again on the inside.
And Fred Geisler, who went into the fence, is now in the pits with a Commodore that has a front that looks like an old Volkswagen Beetle. There'll be a lot of work there.
Up at the head of the field, Alan Grice now has a 2.5-second lead on Peter Brock. And from Brock back to Kevin Bartlett, it's 15.05 seconds. Alan Moffat has retaken Hassimi and assumed 7th place again in the race. And Alan Jones in the 7 Seiko. Oh, no!
Now, that was the flag was waved. You may have noticed a different coloured flag. Now, it was an instant, something like that cost Dick Johnson this race 2 years ago. He came up the very bend. There was a truck on the circuit. He went out, like you saw there, at the last moment and hit the rock that put him out of the race. So that was almost a repeat of what happened 2 years ago, except thankfully there was no rock on the circuit waiting for Dick Johnson. But that was how fast he was going that time. You can imagine the collision when he hit that rock 2 years ago. So just use your imagination and understand how Dick Johnson felt in that race back in 1980.
Before that happened just then, I was trying to say that Alan Jones in the Seiko 7, RX-7, has moved up into 10th place in the race.
That could be a winning position, going very well. He'll be happy with that. We'll follow Alan Jones in a while, because he is absolute dynamite through these bends. There is no faster driver over these twisty parts of the circuit, and we'll have the pleasure during today's telecast to watch Alan Jones in Mazda number 27.
What great pictures from the Channel 7 race came out of Dick Johnson's car, clinging on to the tail of John Harvey as they spear down Conrod Straight once more. Kevin Bartlett in the big Camaro pulling away from them in front at the moment because he's got that enormous power there under that big American-built car coming down towards the John Player Bridge. These cars running 3rd, 4th and 5th, of course, in the race at the present time. Race leader Alan Grice at the present is just at the end of Pitch Straight and turning up Mountain Straight once more. But here at the bottom of Conrod, Kev Bartlett, the big chef, round he goes. Harvey in pursuit. Dick Johnson passing a slower car there.
Yes, Johnson being given a very awkward line there. Not the other driver's fault. He just has to get by the car. Kevin Bartlett has a relatively free run through the corner. John Harvey right after him. Dick Johnson up Mountain Straight has to try and catch this car and John Harvey in 25 right behind. A great battle for 3rd place going on here in the James Hardie 1000.
Brian Callahan, 47, into the pits. Also car number 26. That's the pit reports coming up later for you. Chris Economy down there to cover all the action. Meanwhile, though, we're covering the 9 Sports Camaro, presently placed in 3rd, John Harvey in 4th place, and Dick Johnson in 5th. There's our Texas Instruments computer score at the moment.
We've got 2 of the under 3 litre cars in the top 10 at the moment, both of them the Bluebirds. 56 and 55, the Japanese combination, and then Fury and Gibson surrounded by all those V8s. And we'll be back to see how they sort themselves out after this break.
Back to the James Hardie 1000 Classic live at Mount Panorama, Bathurst. We're inside Peter Brock's car, the Commodore, as he goes across the mountain, working hard at the wheel. Alan Grice, of course, still leads the event. Brock placed well in 2nd.
Brock has a deficit of 2.45 seconds. Not much. He's got Grice well inside. He'll be reasonably contented. And the margin back to Kevin Bartlett, who's running in third place, is 19 seconds. So Peter Brock is comfortably placed.
They're already run up on some of these slower cars, Evan, so early in the race, and threading their way back through the slower traffic.
Makes things very hazardous for the drivers of the faster cars, as well as tending to disrupt the flow of traffic. Grice gets by. Brock has a clear line, but the driver didn't see him coming. You saw there how he just moved over and really cut Brock off. He now has to do it the hard way. That gave Grice maybe another tenth of a second. Now Brock is after him. He won't be happy with that. The driver saw one car, wasn't looking for the second one. And they're going so quickly down the straight now. That's how fast they're going. Peter Brock's car. You're doing about 280 kilometres an hour coming into the braking zone now. You want to make sure the brakes work, wouldn't you? A left-hand bend.
Turn right, you go to Bathurst, go straight ahead, you're in the rough. There's Grice. Takes the inside line, pits straight again. He leads Peter Brock.
Just passing Denny Holmes, the former world champion from New Zealand, driving the black and gold JPS BMW number 41.
21.1. That the last time through to Brock, he took the signal and acknowledged. There's Grice, the Ricar Commodore, heading up Mountain Straight.
In the traffic on that last lap, Brock has made up 2 seconds of that 2.48 second deficiency, so he's right on Alan Grice's tail once more.
What a race it's been with so many accidents. To give us a summary of what's been going on is over to the pits and Chris Economaki.
Okay, the accident that claimed the Bob Morris car yesterday was due to a broken wheel. And Bob Morris said that wheels are not supposed to break and don't break. And now up and down pit road here, they're wondering what caused that accident that took 3 Commodores out. Was it a broken wheel? Because the wheel that broke yesterday is in widespread use, particularly on the Commodores. We're on that story, and if we get any more answers, we'll be back with the answer.
Up into third place at the moment is John Harvey, who's got by Kevin Bartlett. That great three-way tussle, Bartlett, Harvey and Johnson still continues. But Alan Grice, the man leading the race, look at the traffic he has to pass. He has a Commodore on the left, he has a Mazda on the right, and he's got to get through them up here at McPhillamy Park, which is about the worst possible place you could find to try and make a rapid passage. Peter Brock following behind. Alan Grice is enjoying a golden year, a man who's had so much disappointment. He's been criticised a lot. Grumpy Gricey, they call him. A little bit on the surly side in the past, but when you think of the fortunes he's had, you couldn't blame him. But this year, things are going right. He won the Castrol 400 at Sandown under contentious circumstances, but he won the race. He, of course, in practice, won $5,000 and wrote himself into the Bathurst history books by being the first man in a touring car ever to lap the 6.1 kilometre Mount Panorama circuit at better than 100 miles per hour. He was fastest in the practice for pole position yesterday, and Hardie's Heroes won another $10,000. He's in front of the race, picking up $25 per lap, the Kmart prize. He wants to stay there. He'd love to win this race.
I can't remember seeing him recently without a grin on his face.
He's so relaxed. He's lost all that sort of grumpiness he used to have because things are going well. He says he's in a team who prepare their car very well. He gets on well with them. Oh, he got sideways into the sand. He went there in the BMW last year and got stuck in deep sand. He has spun. I don't know how that happened. He didn't seem to be going in over fast. Whether he has a tyre problem, will he go into the pits? Or is he going to... No,
he's lost the race lead, though, by the length of pit straight because Brock has just taken Hell's Corner and is on his way up Mountain Straight.
Drama for Alan Grice, the race leader at the end. Conrod Straight, slipping, spinning out into the sand trap, the place that took him out last year.
Brock is already 10.2 seconds ahead of Alan Grice, thanks to that spin.
Another recovery vehicle out on the track. They do make life hazardous for the racing drivers. There are vehicles in front of them or at the rear, but in front from the point of view of the driver's arrival, but it still makes things difficult. No other way of removing the cars from this difficult circuit at the moment. And Peter Brock leads the race now with a margin of 10 seconds over Alan Grice. There's a view from the Terry Finnegan Commodore, one of those three. They touched, they were running 7th, 8th and 9th, so 3 of the leading cars out in the early laps. And the new leader, Peter Brock, wending his way through the field of cars.
Fastest race time recorded so far has been by Peter Brock in the Commodore. On the 10th lap, he clocked at 2:20.5, but both he and Grice have been circulating at almost exactly those times since the race started. 2:21s, 2:20.5s, 2:20.9s, 2:21.1s.
Imagine the immense levels of concentration that were required by Peter Brock, any of the drivers out there. Look how fast he's going, feeding his way through traffic. He's going to have to do this all day. He'll have one break when Larry Perkins takes over, but he's working hard. It's a hard job. They're going so fast. Peter Brock carrying, of course, the race cam. down the straight, a point where, while they're going at their highest speed on the circuit, it is one of the very few places where they can relax a little bit, where he has the chance to look at the instruments, to take a few deep breaths, just to relax the arm muscles a little bit, just to get his breath. Peter Brock has won this race 5 times. No one else has done that. Alan Moffat has 4 victories to his credit. There's oil on the bottom of the track. That could have been what put Alan Grice off. I think it might have been. I couldn't explain the spin otherwise. He just touched a patch of oil, I'd say. Our cameraman there has picked up oil on the track. So it's probably that put Grice back, because there was an unexplained spin. Unless something was wrong with the car. Obviously it wasn't. Grice knows what's wrong. He's now got to make up those 10 seconds that he lost to Peter Brock.
And certainly a very difficult place for the marshals to get out and throw cement dust on that oil, and that could create quite a bit of hazard at the end of Conrod Straight.
Car 18, Murray Carter, is in the pits. Early trouble.
Peter Brock with 10 seconds lead.
Now been
over Alan Grice.
It's now been stretched, Mike.
13.61 seconds now the gap. It's opened up another 3 seconds. So Brocky out in front, carrying the race cam, certainly with the pressure off him at this stage.
A fastest lap so far in the race of 2:20.5. Grice's fastest lap time so far is 2:20.9, and they're circulating at about 1.2 seconds a lap faster than the current third place getter, and that's Kevin Bartlett in the Chevy Camaro.
And look how hard Peter Brock is working. Bear in mind, it's a very hot day here today. He's in a car with windows closed. He's wearing flame-proof gear. Those gauntlets are very hot around the hands. They're flame-proof, of course. Flame-proof overalls, which are heavy. They're multiple layered, and he has long flame-proof underwear as well. He has socks that are of the same material, boots that are flame-proof. He has a mask over his face, protecting all but his eyes. He's wearing a helmet. He would be so hot, and that would be draining moisture from the body. You can see the concentration on the face of the man as he winds his way across the top of the mountain, head tilting a little bit to counter the G-forces. He's going so hard. You can't imagine the stresses on this man as he goes through the top there, tilting the head.
Well, he's been given an enormous opportunity by Alan Grice, spinning out, put him in front with a lead of 13 seconds, and Peter Brock is out to make the most of it, and that's why he's driving so hard, as you can see on your screens at home, through our race cam, in Peter Brock's Commodore 05, as he now barrels down Conrod Straight once more. Absolute speed as he comes over the hump under the new John Player Bridge. Brakes, please.
Followed Peter Brock down Conrod Straight, taking one of the slower cars. Brian Callahan, he's already been to the pits on the inside, and our stretchers going up Mountain Straight. There's more action to follow when we return to Mount Panorama.
and takes the left-hander at Murray's corner onto pit straight again as we see the race leader, Peter Brock, and the printout comes up on your screen. The Channel 7 computer, the input from Texas Instruments tells us that Brock is in front from Grice, then Bartlett, Harvey, Johnson, Cullen, Moffat, then the two Bluebirds, Hassimi and Fury. Alan Jones and John Goss in the big Jag is up in 12th place. Peter Brock, let's see if we can get some comments from him as he makes his way up Mountain Straight. Peter Brock.
Peter Brock on air, Evan. I can hear you perfectly. And I'll tell you, Mountain Straight. It's not. It's a very, very bumpy area. I'm back to third here. I might add the door.
Car trying to limp back to the pits. It's really forming something of a mobile hazard. He obviously thinks he can get it fixed after that early lap crash that put him and two other Commodores out. You can see the flat tyre on the left, which may have been the cause of the crash, although it's the side of the car that took the impact, so it may well have been damaged. But you can see the drive that Terry is having back. He'd be so disappointed. He qualified up in 12th place, so he really had a great chance, and he'll be an immensely disappointed fella trying to get back to the pits just to stay in the race.
I think it's going to take him a fair while too, Evan.
There are still 20 cars on the front running lap.
Thank you very much, Peter Brock. Great words and a new perspective on a driver of Peter Brock, just how relaxed he is when you see other drivers so pet up before the start of a race and so intense when they climb out at pit stops, and Brock takes it all so casually, and there he is out in front leading the race.
There must be something.
16.1 seconds is now his lead over Alan Grice.
And the gap back to other cars is Bartlett 11.5 behind, only 1.5 in front of John Harvey. Johnson is right on his tail, less than 8 tenths behind. In 6th place is Warren Cullen. He's another 25 seconds back as we follow the Japanese driver Hassimi in the Turbo Bluebird. He's doing well. He's in 8th place, just behind Alan Moffat, who should be just in front of him. And behind Hassimi, a matter of 10 seconds, is Charlie O'Brien in the Clive Benson Brown Commodore.
The rebuilt Commodore.
Yes, a remarkable effort that. George Fury is behind this car. Alan Jones running in 11th place now, another 6 seconds back. And John Goss in car number 10, the big XJS Jaguar, is in 12th place, and that's a great result. But Hassimi taking the Nissan Bluebird up Mountain Straight. I was intrigued to discover that in this Bluebird there is in fact the little Bluebird itself that was in Donald Campbell's Bluebird, the world land speed record holder. A fellow called Graham Ferret, a mate of mine who was involved with the project, was in England, saw the symbol over there, took it from the car, quite legitimately, and presented it to the Bluebird team, and Hassimi is carrying that good luck charm.
Well, Hassimi's certainly flying, there's no doubt about that. And he's going to be in contention as this race progresses indeed. He's sitting right there in an ideal position at the present time, running in 7th spot. The race leaders out in front, Brock, Grice, Bartlett, Harvey, charging unbelievably hard.
We just saw Moffat go by, and he's well and truly inside of Hassimi, so a battle between those two rivals from Japanese factories, both with various levels of factory support. The Hassimi car is, of course, a full works entry, beautifully presented. In fact, judgment just before the race began of the best presented car went to its sister car, 55, that George Fury is driving, but the cars are virtually identical. were judged by a panel of experts as being the best prepared cars here at the track.
And of course, that car won the Repo High-Tech Car Care Products Award, $500, so the team would be quite happy about that.
Car 33, the Goodrich RX-7 that's running on the new low-profile Goodrich radials, I'm afraid is in the pits. They're not turning at all at the moment. I think it's the second time they've been in with some minor fault. They're frantic activity under the bonnet at the moment, but for the time being, they're not going anywhere.
A couple of RX-7s have been in the pits. 4 Falcons were there at one stage, so it's really a race that is taking its toll of those who are going quickly.
15.47 seconds is now the gap between race leader Peter Brock and Alan Grice, so he's stretching it out, Brocky, and between Grice and Bartlett in third spot, it's another 9.7 seconds.
If Hosseini does well in this race, I think for certain we can see other turbocharged entries next year. I'm sure that the people from Mitsubishi, who are the most prolific of turbocharged manufacturers in Japan, will be watching the race. They build turbos. There's a Sigma here, of course. They have competition cars overseas, a rally version which uses a Starion engine in a smaller body. That'll be an interesting car here. And if the Nissan car goes well, I imagine the men from Adelaide will say, let's get involved. You can see what he's about to do to a BMW 635. Here's a 3.5-litre European thoroughbred, Denny Hulme, world champion, pulling over very politely for Hosseini, 1.8 litres but turbocharged, much lighter. And there's the power, turbo 1.8 4-cylinder, overhead cam, 3.5-litre 6-cylinder, and Hosseini pulls away. We'll see also, I think, the German factory Audi, who are here with an unturbocharged 5-cylinder car with Chris Heyer driving. Maybe they'll consider running one of their turbos next year, because they, with their Audi Quattro, have in fact got the preeminent car in world rallying, and it's not a long step from having the top performing car in that sphere of international motorsport to racing. And I think we may see turbos from Mitsubishi and Audi in the race next year, and maybe a few others as well.
This BMW following Hosseini is the car that was campaigned earlier in the year by Jim Richards. Richards, of course, now with has taken over the new BMW, and this one being campaigned by Denny Hulme, former world motor racing champion. Leading cars overall. Printout coming up on your screen. Peter Brock 05 in the lead from Alan Grice in car number 4, the Recar Commodore. Kevin Bartlett, the 9 Camaro. The second dealer team Commodore, Johnny Harvey. Dick Johnson, then Warren Cullen, the Commodore. Alan Moffat's hanging right in there on their tail in the Mazda RX-7, followed by the 2 Bluebirds. And Alan Jones in the 7 Seiko RX-7, occupying 10th spot overall at this stage of the James Hardie 1000. We'll be back for more of the action in a moment from Mount Panorama.
Good stuff here.
To Mount Panorama at Bathurst, waiting for the cars coming over the hump. We have one We pull out of this in the pits.
Oh, it's the second time in for car 16, Gary Rogers, the Recar Commodore. And also, Dixon's in trouble, the Barbecues Galore Camaro. Had some damage there in the right front.
Well, both cars are damaged. The Camaro had a lift on the front, as you can see. The mechanic's trying to lift the car by hand. That'll be a big load because that will be the heaviest car in the race.
Can't get the jacks under, for whatever reason.
Ron Wanless in car 16 in for the same sort of reasons. He had an enormous shunt which has damaged the front end. He went in once, went out the track again, is back again for further repairs. So the high pace and the crashes which often result from that pace are taking their toll.
It's the third time Dixon's been in too.
There's the race leaders, as you can see, by our Phillips scoreboard. Peter Brock 05, the race leader from Alan Bryson, the Recar Commodore. Third is Kevin Bartlett in the 9 Network Camaro. Fourth place, John Harvey in the Marlborough Holden Dealer Team Commodore. Fifth place is Queensland's very own Dick Johnson in the True Blue Ford. Then further back to number 22, the Cullen entry.
Brock to Grice now 16 seconds. Grice to Bartlett 11.7 seconds. Oh, look at this dice here. Oh.
This has been raging now for about 5 laps. The battle for third place. Big Rev Kev.
Kevin flies across the top of the mountain, but watch the way John Harvey closes up just a little on the way down the mountain. It's a classic dice. Great rivals for years and years. They have a high level of respect for each other, which makes it better when they're racing. A hand goes up to signal a flag. There must be some marshal there, because certainly Kevin Bartlett raised his hand. I can't see a crashed car there, but some sign going up that there's something else on the track.
I don't think it was Kevin waving John past. See the comparison. Speed between the Chevy Camaro and the Dealer Team Commodore as they hit Conrod Straight again. Johnson not that far back behind, but still running in 5th place in the race.
Chevy Camaro, a heavier car than the Commodore, but it is lower and better shaped. It's a sports car. The Commodore is made basically to carry people, therefore has a high roofline, and that shows in the long legs. Oh, there's one of the Camaros into the fence. We saw him in the pits just a while ago, I think. Jeff Leeds,
other one.
Jeff Leeds and Peter Fitzgerald in the Camaro. Goodness me, they are not having a good race. One car damaged in the pits on the right-hand side, one car damaged against the fence on the right-hand side.
Things not cooking too well for the Barbecues Galore team, with Dixon already in and one parked against the wall.
I'd say the team is well done. Well, that's a sorry sight. Obviously, they're out of the race. They may get it back to the pits and the truck, but their race is run. And look how close John Harvey is. He managed to get right on the tail of Kevin Bartlett down the straight. Dick Johnson lurking close behind, enjoying the scrap, but not able to do much about it. Johnny Harvey takes a tighter line, pulls out the pass on the inside, but that might be a false move because there's a slow car in front, and he'll have to get in behind the Camaro again, unless he just, there he goes, back onto the right, just to overtake this car that they're now approaching on the way up the straight. It's almost as quick as they are. It's one of the big V8s, but Harvey ties in right behind Kevin Bartlett. Then he just has time to tuck in for the swinging right-hander up through GTX.
The Everlast Falcon of veterans Brian Sampson, Bill O'Brien in the pits.
I don't think Bill O'Brien would like to be called a veteran.
Well, in terms of his racing experience.
You're right.
Through the cutting again.
With his long brown curly locks, he looks like one of the younger drivers. He's a Canberra driver. We have 4 Canberra drivers in the race. Quite a wide interstate representation. Just 1 driver from South Australia and none this year, unfortunately, from Western Australia. There were 4 from Tasmania, but we've lost, unfortunately, Garth Wigston on that early lap, and he got tangled up in that touch between 3 cars, which took him out of the race, went up into 7th place. It looked such a promising effort.
Car 51, the Capri of Laurie Nelson and Peter Jones, has been wheeled to the rear of the pits. They've got some extensive work to do back there.
Not as big an international representation this year. There are 7 overseas drivers taking part. 3 of them are from Japan. They're doing pretty well, a lot of them at the moment. There were 2 from Britain, but one, John Fitzpatrick, has had to retire when his Seiko Channel 7 network Kmart Falcon broke a wheel and crashed at this point yesterday, and the car was so badly damaged he couldn't run.
Quick check of the gap between leading cars. Brock to Grice 16.7 seconds, Grice to Bartlett 12.6, Harvey to Johnson 2.4 seconds, Johnson to Cullen 36 seconds, Cullen to Moffat 8 seconds, and Moffat to Hassimi 5 seconds.
Out the back of the Marlborough Commodore, Gary Wilmington disappears in the distance as Peter Brock selects another gear and heads up Mountain Straight. Wilmington being passed there by Brock on pit straight. As we pan around and you get now the front view.
And the track is rough up here. We heard Peter mention it before. There's been some resurfacing and the car's bumped. You'll watch into 3rd gear. That was a quick change. applying a bit of movement on this fast run through GTX. This is a critical part of the circuit. If you don't go fast up the mountain.
Harvey's got by Bartlett going out of Hill Corner. We'll pick that up a little later. Meantime, look at the gear changing, frantic activity in the car to get around that section of the course on Peter Brock's behalf.
He's into second gear now. He needs out through the cutting. This is where the cars were. They're now being cleared from the track. Up into third gear. Obeying about a 6,800, maybe 7,000 rev limit. The engine will spin happily at that. You can hear how hard it's going. That scream, that snarl accompanying Peter Brock around the track is his 5-litre V8 singing its full power song, around 380 brake horsepower. 50 less than Dick Johnson, but this is the new SS Police Special Commodore, built by the Holden dealer team. Peter Brock, apart from being a racing driver, is a car manufacturer. Has got into the specialty car business, financed by a group of Holden dealers who back his race team. They set up a factory for him. He's now building special cars in small volume batches. Built the 500 necessary to qualify the car for the race under the homologation rules of the Confederation of Australian Motorsport. It uses no parts that aren't available elsewhere. It's just in the light police special body. The police are expected to tough it out so it doesn't have things like air conditioning, electric window winders and the other luxury items that burdened down the HDT Commodore, that added a couple of hundredweight in weight. And with the lighter shell, a nicely tuned motor, a few changes to the brakes and some slight adjustments to the suspension that he needs for racing, he is flying and he is leading the race by a margin of something like 16 seconds. But can he win the race 6 times? One feels that the greatest adversary that Peter Brock has is Lady Luck.
Alan Jones, meantime, in the Seiko 7 Network, RX-7.
And there's a fair indication, Gary, of how cars modified for racing under the rules can perform. There is a Mazda RX-7 from Japan, albeit with the world champion of 1981 driving, or 1980 driving, passing a thoroughbred sports saloon from Germany, the BMW 635, which just can't keep up with the peripheral ported Mazda Alan Jones driving. Barry Jones and his father Bert Jones prepared the car at Yennora, just out of Sydney. They are a magnificent team. It's great to see a father and son operating in motorsport as Bert and Barry Jones do. They've got, of course, the finest driver on the circuit in Alan Jones here. Watch the way he goes through the bends. I saw him in action in the CRC 300 at Amarillo. He won the race, he and Barry. And he was so good that he didn't look spectacular, but look how hard he goes, how he passes cars at critical moments, loses no time. Watch the lines that Alan Jones takes, and watch just how hard he's going. He's conserving the car to a degree, but using up all the road that he wants, gets across to the right line for Skyline. And back with Peter Brock's car, one of the big Falcons in front. This is the Alf Gant Leo Leonard car, the car that was driven by Dick Johnson to win the race last year, headed by Brian Burt, long-time supporter of motor racing, wagging his tail at Peter Brock. Up on top of the mountain, Brock hasn't got many places to go. He can pass on the right, but what do we do? Unless the driver sees him, the driver saw him, but the road was closed anyhow. Peter can't possibly pass on the outside there, so he's going to lose a few tenths of a second. Peter Brock was shouting out a message to the driver in front, asking him in reasonably impolite terms to move over. He must have heard. Alf Grant moves over. Peter Brock flies by, takes the inside line, and the Queenslander slips in behind.
Brock's quickest time so far in the race was on the 10th lap, that 2:20.5. Alan Grice, just to give you an example of what that spin cost him, he'd been circulating his fastest lap so far at 2:20.8. He's been circulating around 2:21, but on the lap that he spun, 2:31, and the following lap recovering 2:25.
And we'll be back. Right, and we'll be back to the great race in just a moment. We might get on to John Gost while he's still there.
Good idea.
Bit more of Jones would be nice. John Goss is 3 seconds behind. Well, that's the one that crashed up on the fence. Okay, we might get Chris ready for it, eh?
okay.
Back to Mount Panorama at Bathurst, and the EF Goodrich car going into the pits. It's been in twice already as we pick up on this great scrap that's going for third place. Kevin Bartlett getting back to third, and John Harvey still very close to him as they come down on one of these tender vehicles again in a very awkward part of the racetrack.
That's a mild word for it. I thought when I first saw it that we could see a Camaro and a Commodore up the back of the truck. But the driver, who's highly skilled, of course, got out of their way, but it is a real problem for the drivers. I don't know what the alternative is. But in the meantime, they're past and they're maintaining the scrap, which has persisted almost throughout the length of the race. John Harvey made just an effort to move out and past, then realised he didn't have the legs on the Chevy, which is pulling away, lower, wider, just cuts the air a little bit better. But Harvey then decides that it's a bit better on the right-hand side of the track, moves out a little bit. Kevin moves across to the centre just to block him in case he gets past under brakes. The brakes used to be a problem with the Chev Camaro, but Kevin has been to America, bought the latest gear, got lightweight brake equipment, has saved himself about 100 kilograms in weight, got better brakes, more power, and he's very competitive this year. But John Harvey, all the same, closes right up on him. Now it's a squirt towards the line and the first into the corner out of pit straight. Who's it going to be? Harvey will make a move here for sure. He's up so close. But he can't find a line. Kevin has it blocked completely, so Harvey says, okay, I'll stay behind you, Kevin.
No traffic in front of them this time up Mountain Straight, though, so Harvey may make his big run here.
Dick Johnson is close. He's made up a little bit of ground, I think. He's still enjoying the action up front. Gets a very good view of it. It'd be like sitting in the front stalls at Cinerama. But Harvey just losing out a little bit for a while. Then he seems to pick up a bit around here. It gets rough. What's the way the cars bounce as they hit these indentations? A bit tiring on the drivers, hard on the cars.
2.2 seconds between Bartlett and Johnson, and Harvey sandwiched in between them.
This battle has been raging since almost lap one.
The driver following as closely as John Harvey has to be very careful. The temptation is to get close and get a bit of a tow. But if you do that, you lose the airflow into the radiator and the car starts to overheat. So John Harvey will be watching the instruments, and that's why occasionally you'll see him just pull out into the airstream and then pull back again, just to let the air get into the radiator, drop the temperature of it, then back behind where it's easier. Doesn't use as much fuel. It's not just a question of speed. If he can save fuel, it's possible that these two cars, the Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodores, Peter Brock, who's leading the race, John Harvey, who's battling there for third place, can get through with just 2 pit stops instead of the usual 3. And if that happens, that'll put a bit of a bunger among the some of the smaller car camps who are hoping that these big cars will have to stop 1 extra time for fuel. So John Harvey won't be too unhappy to be right behind, getting a tow, saving just that little bit of fuel as he can.
2 more cars have been pushed off behind the pits. Car 14, the Falcon of John English and Paul Gulson, and car 32, the Commodore of Alan Taylor and Kevin Kennedy.
They couldn't get much closer than that. Conrod straight again.
In the days when I used to be involved with the BMC team, we had a critical problem with fuel stops. Then it was 3. And we found if the cars towed each other, ran as a team one behind the other, they could get by with 3 and not 4. So the drivers, particularly the Finns, Timo Mäkinen and Rano Altman, used to follow each other. And in fact, they used to push up the hill. They found that instead of 120 horsepower, they had 240 horsepower and just 1 series of frontal links. Well, a man who's not getting a tow but is getting a good view of the race is the man behind them, Dick Johnson. That's the view that Dick is getting from his Palmer Prudential Falcon. Coming into the braking area, he's got a problem. There's a car right on his left and it'll be hard. He'll have to take a wide line.
Yes. Certainly was wide.
Yes, forced to take that very, very wide.
It was the Alfa Romeo, the interesting Stefan entry, 64, a V6 Alfetta, the first we've seen in the country. Dick Johnson didn't get a very good look at it. He just saw there was some obstruction, saw there was a little bit of bitumen for him, took the line, and now he's off in pursuit of the 2 cars in front.
Thanks, mate. Over.
Veteran Murray Carter, car 18, is back in the pits second time.
Mike Raymond, Dick Johnson.
We're just coming in at GDX or XL.
Dick heading up to the top part of the circuit. That's, if you can hear us, Dick, it's been quite a scrap that with Kevin Bartlett, Peter Brock and yourself.
Actually, I think it's John Harvey. There's a bit of a bad biff here before. We're just coming up through the cutting and
through my favourite part of the circuit, would you believe?
Dick, you made some comments about the track being fairly rough in certain sections. Which worry you the most?
Actually, the poor old thing's not going too bad at the moment. Across the top here, it feels reasonably good. The tyres have gone off a bit, but we'll just have to sort of battle on.
What about the rear end and the spoiler, Dick?
Oh, well, just get used to it. Don't worry about it. Actually, the thing's not going too bad, really. I think we still got a little bit of our ring problem. But here we are coming up on halves. We seem to catch halves down across the top of the mountain pretty easily, but they run away from us on the chute. We're just coming into Forest Elbow here, which is a very important corner because your speed down the straight depends on how you get through that corner. Now we go for the long run down the chute. It's one of my favourite Queensland cars. Seem to remember this thing somewhere. There's a bit of a hump there, you got to back off, otherwise he has a bit of a rev up. As you can see by the tacho, it's got 8,000 on it. Over another bump, back off. 7,400 in top. Back wheel lifts off the ground. 350 on the brakes. This is the part that surprised me. The old Falcon's pretty good under brakes. We're catching even the Commodores under brakes. They feel really good.
Where are you losing out in this battle, Dick?
Mainly on the straightaway. That doesn't worry me. We'll just sit back and enjoy the view from where I'm sitting. It's quite amusing, really. You can have a bit of a laugh. Saves telling jokes to yourself.
Dick, I've never known you so relaxed.
Oh, well, it's mainly the way I am in this situation. I'm just playing the waiting game, mainly. But it's quite amusing.
It's a great dive going on in front of you, Dick.
Yeah, actually, Harvey's flare's a bit loose by a little bit. Looks as though it might fall off.
Whoops. Bartlett looks desperate to get by there, Dick, but it's a pretty big car you've got in front of you.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It uses all the road too, I tell you.
Dick, have you noticed any problem with all the trucks on the circuit again this year?
Come again, sorry?
Have you noticed any problem with all the tender vehicles on the circuit again?
The slow vehicles, you mean?
Yes, no, the trucks.
Oh, the trucks, yeah, but you get fair sort of warning, and it's not too bad.
Actually, there were more trucks finished last year's race than Camaros.
This is a bit where I never thought I'd catch anyone, but the old mother goes pretty good down here.
That was one of those trucks.
A bit of a traffic jam up the front here.
How bad is the traffic, Dick?
Oh, KB's pretty desperate here. He's having a good run through the corner to see if he can have a shot at half down the chute, which I'm sure he will, but there's a bit of a traffic jam in front of him.
What speed are you pulling, Dick?
This is about the place where the car actually feels bad when you pass another car like this over the hump. And the back, I know you can't feel it, I know, but...
Bit tight there, Dick.
We'll let you get back to the race, Dick. Thank you very much for your comments. That was Dick.
Roy, over.
Okay, buddy. Dick Johnson, a very remarkable driver, and of course the toast of the Gold Coast and throughout Queensland. We'll take a break and return with the James Hardie 1000.
That was great service. Yeah, amazingly so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, damage.
Yeah. I think we almost saw it happen.
Battler, we might just look at the front of John Harvey's car too. He certainly has been damaged there, and it might cause him a problem. Yeah, I think we saw it happen actually.
Communication out of Rock's car hasn't been
No sound.
too hot.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama. Dick Johnson continues behind Kevin Bartlett, John Harvey. Race order still the same. Up front and leading, Peter Brock for the Marlborough Holden dealer team in car number 05. Second place being held by Alan Grice, the Recar Commodore number 4. And then this great scrap that's been going probably now for about 10 or 15 laps, involving John Harvey, Kevin Bartlett, who's trying to get back to third place, and just dropping a little off the pace there, Dick Johnson.
They're 20 seconds behind Alan Grice, who's running in second place. As we change angle, look at the front of John Harvey's car. He certainly has had a bump there. I think when he touched the back of the Camaro, I think we saw that in fact from one of the helicopter shots. He was so close. Now whether that's going to cause him any trouble, it certainly would be affecting the airflow into the radiator. The spoiler, Dick was saying he thinks he's loose. He apparently caught us out a bit of a flap on the edge. So certainly the... Oh, he's gone, he's gone. Kevin Bartlett, the roll is over. Bartlett has gone, he's got Dick Johnson maybe into it. No, Dick got out of the way, but the back tyre is off. The back tyre is off Kevin Bartlett's car. He went wide, I think the tyre came off at the start. Slid into the bank, hitting, and a very slow and lazy roll across the track. A marshal is there to try and get Kevin out. He's okay. Kevin Bartlett, another wretched year for him. He's looking to see the tyre, saying, what caused it? That's it. That's what caused it, he says. Damn. He's happy. He's not happy what's happened, but at least he knows what went wrong, because he just lost the car suddenly coming up the circuit in that desperate dice with John Harvey. And Dick Johnson did miraculous things to avoid him. He saw the car going, went to precisely the right place, got out of the way. Let's watch it again now. You see him going wide. He's been coming close. Now he's gone. Yes, it's a flat tyre. Hits the bank hard. He must be saying, what's happening? What's happening? Bang. And a slow and lazy roll over. The car comes across.
Here comes Johnson.
But the tyre is flat and the wheel rim digs in and over goes the car. Now what's Johnson avoid? A flash of flame from his exhaust pipe. Johnson
goes one way.
And what's the way Johnson avoids him?
Has to duck back because the car just slid on its roof right across the track in front of him. Great work by Johnson to get round that.
And there's the flat tyre that caused it all.
Exit Kevin Bartlett, who was running in 4th place in the James Hardie 1000 Classic. Manages to walk away from the car.
Well, Colin Bond destroyed this car in practice on Wednesday. The boys from the Technical and Further Education College rebuilt it for them. Worked enormously to do it. Got it on the track. It was going so well. And another tragedy befalls the 9 Camaro. Here comes Peter Brock going up the mountain.
Peter Brock, Mike Raymond, if you can read us. Now, we won't disturb Peter as he comes past this, but he'll at least have a look. There's the view. So we pan around and you see the car out the back window. So Peter Brock continues leading the race by a handsome margin over Alan Grice.
20.5 seconds.
And you may just have
There's
noticed...
Colin Bond.
Oh, disappointed
Says
Colin.
it all.
Yes.
Colin, of course, who wound up in that practice incident earlier in the week. The car was almost destroyed in that, and a lot of people spent many, many hours getting it back on the starting lineup. And Kevin was doing so well. He was so competitive in against the Commodores. But popping a tyre up there and then landing on the lid and sliding across, I wouldn't imagine there's a great deal of damage to the car, but it's certainly in a very, very difficult place, and it's going to require a lot of manpower to right that car.
Well, the roof has certainly left its mark on the road, and I think it'll be a fairly expensive job to rebuild it. I think Kevin might get himself a body shelf, one of the new Camaros, to come out and frighten everyone. Let's see what happened again. You'll see the tyre goes, and you'll see just how wide Kevin Bartlett went. We'll replay it for you, and when we see the car go, watch how the tyre rolls off the rim. Now he goes first. Kevin's lost it. You see the tyre flapping, hits, the car bounces, and the bare rim catches the ground, bang, and rolls him over. When that happened, he was gone. Watch Dick Johnson avoid him. Hard onto the roof. Bits of trim coming off the car, and the car slides on this roof and its bonnet into the fence, and Johnson slips by.
Roll cage inside the car doing its job.
And you'll see Kevin Bartlett get out of the car to see what was wrong. And the man who took that position, the cameraman, he was very close to the scene. I reckon he'd still be taking deep breaths from those few seconds of action that came straight towards him. Well, exit Kevin Bartlett. And what a disappointment. It was up near this part of the circuit that Colin Bond, driving his car on Wednesday, had part of the front suspension break and went into the fence. Now Kevin Bartlett has done it only a matter of 400 metres before that point, and the car is out of the race off course. And a very disappointed Kevin Bartlett standing on the fence. You may have noticed when we swung the camera from Peter Brock's car that Peter gave a wave of not just consolation to Kevin Bartlett, who was there, but to say, I'm glad you're okay. There's a very strong bond between drivers in these races. There's Kevin now. One of the spectators has given him a can. He's allowed to drink it. And he's just walking there, exchanging compliments with the crowd. He's thrown a cigarette. He's relaxed. Signing autographs.
The people's favourite.
The professional racing driver. You know, I feel like 100 years of age. I gave Kevin his first works drive back in the early 60s in, of all things, here at Bathurst, a Morris Mini Deluxe. Who can remember that car? Let alone young Kevin, as we called him, gave him a run. He came back complaining, said it's not fast enough. Well, he's graduated to faster machinery. A delightful fellow. One of the real ornaments of Australian motor racing. And this is how he left the 1982 James Hardie 1000. A tyre went flat. Nothing in Kevin's fault. Slipped around, the rim dug, and over he went.
Well, following the Bartlett incident, 39 cars running in the race after that accident.
53 cars started the race. It really has been a race of incidents, and here's one of them. Kevin Bartlett running in a strong fourth place, right behind John Harvey, had been battling with him all the time, and that's how we lost our fourth runner, Kevin Bartlett. Exit from the great race. We'll be back in just a moment. What's up there? They had a dark image and they've changed it up. It's all right with me. Yeah, and John. Okay, and John Goss is in the pits too, by the way. You might tell Chris that John Goss is there. You want to start with the Jaguar and then throw to Chris Economaki?
I think we'll go on.
No, the Jaguar's gone. It was gone, wasn't it?
He's had a command of a break with Chris. We had to pass a truck there.
I'm just waving to him, the marshal gave one. Of course.
I'm with Colin Bond, driver of the 9 Camaro, with Kevin Bartlett, who has just had an accident. Did you see it on television, Colin, the accident?
Yes, I did,
Okay, we're going to have it up here again in a moment. I was told by Kevin that the car, had it been taken to a regular body shop after your accident earlier this week, would have been called a total wreck. Was the car race-worthy when the race started today?
I would say the car was back to about 99% race-worthy, actually. The boys have done a fabulous job. The accident we had on the Wednesday was a glancing blow. It was into the same wall, by the way.
Okay, here's the accident. Now, obviously, the left rear tire...
It's blowing.
Right, it's gone, right.
Yep.
It's a good, solid hit there.
Right. It's just unlucky now that the front clips the wall again and goes up the wall, because it could have easily spun around.
Right.
And not that we get the car roadworthy today, I think, but it'd be easy to repair. I think that particular crunch there will be... it's a very second-hand car, I can say that now.
All right, and what kind of a ride did Kevin have inside that thing?
Well, it happens that quick, you don't really know, and particularly when you're upside down, all you can see is road and darkness, and you're waiting for something else to happen, like the crunch is about to happen now. Yeah. And then you finally realise you've stopped, and once it's stopped, you can then think about getting out. But I'd say that the tyre's gone flat because of debris on the road. There's all the earthen banks around here. It's like something that Dick got before. He got a bigger rock and it just destroyed the front suspension.
Okay, Cullen, the cost of the crash earlier this week and this accident, what are we talking about in dollars and cents, what Bathurst is costing your team this year?
I'd hate to think, actually, Chris, although I must say that it's probably been done the most economical way possible, because there are a group of guys here from, I think, Wollongong Tech and Wagga Tech and that, and they've done a fabulous job, and I mean, they do it for nothing, basically. They come up here because they love to see the cars race, and if anything gets damaged, they try and get it going again. And with their assistants and our own guys' assistants who are here all week, that side of it, I mean, if you had to take them to a body shop and ask them to fix it for you, it'd probably cost about 10 grand, I'd say.
Well, Cullen, thanks for coming by, and better luck next time, and okay, back to the box.
Thank you, Chris, and a great scrap going on, Will, but down the field between Peter Jansen, who's come second on many occasions here in car 3, and Warren Cullen, just in front of him in car 22. Warren qualified better than Peter Jansen. In fact, he was just outside the top 10 in practice earlier in the week on Friday.
It was Warren Cullen, of course, that had Alan Jones with him last year, and the car would not go at all. It's nice to see that he's doing a lot better this time around.
Peter Jansen qualified 17th, so he's made up a lot of ground to be up there right on Cullen's tail.
Evan Charlie O'Brien has passed Hassimi, the Japanese driver, in the Bluebird. Brock now leads by about 24 seconds from Alan Grice, another 22 seconds to John Harvey, third, then 2.2 seconds to Dick Johnson in fourth place, followed by Cullen, then Moffat, then Charlie O'Brien, Hassimi, Fury and Alan Jones.
Well, I was going to say it was a dreadful place for Peter Jansen to be out passing as he was Gary Wilmington's Falcon, because the vehicle with the flashing lights meant that ahead of them was a recovery vehicle going, of course, to Collective tomorrow. Now he's got to do it all again, and he's lost contact with Warren Cullen, but he has Gary Wilmington to get by, the young Sydney driver, 30 years of age, and one of the very enthusiastic younger drivers in the race. It seems to be a race of slightly older people these days.
There are now only 8 cars from Peter Brock down to and including Hassimi in the Bluebird on the same lap.
And Peter Jansen trying to get by Gary Wilmington. He's making it into the ground, but not able to catch him through here. We'll see what it's like on the straights. Peter has run in past years with Larry Perkins. Larry this year has joined the man leading the race, Peter Brock. So Peter Jansen, had to cast around. Oh, there's Terry Finnegan's car, which crashed so early in the pits being repaired, but they've lost themselves something like an hour, so they are out of contention, which is a great shame. But Peter Jansen opted for a young driver. David Parsons from Tasmania will be his co-driver.
That dice between Cullen and Jansen, we ought to mention, whilst they're neck and neck on the track, there is in fact a lap between them.
And there's the leaderboard, and for the first time we see the BMW of Jim Richards and Englishman David Hobbs. They're 2 laps down on the leaders, but they are up on the leaderboard, and you can see how the race is changing and how the Bluebirds, the turbocharged cars, printed in white because they're in a smaller category, are in fact making ground through the field.
Yes, the input from Texas Instruments and from our 7 computer. You can notice that very obviously, the 2 Bluebirds slowly but surely eating up some of the bigger cars.
Terry Finnegan has gone into the pits, as has car number 26, which is Bill O'Brien in the Falcon XD. He's been in the pits before.
Pushed off behind the pits for more extensive work.
Now Peter Jansen is by Wilmington. He's got a long chase now after Warren Cullen, the Victorian driver. Here are the cars in the smaller category, led by the 2 turbo Bluebirds, the Japanese driver, Hassimi in the lead. He has 30 laps up, as has George Fury in the sister car. They're running 6th and 7th. A long gap then back to outright placings. You can see the next is the Ford Capri of Les Gross, who is 1 lap behind. Another Capri, Barry Seaton and Don Smith, the veteran here. Won the race years ago, did Barry Seaton, 1965. Graham Bailey, the Gosford driver in the Celica, is up there on the leaderboard, the leading Toyota.
Interesting story with one of the smaller capacity cars, Evan, car 60, the Gemini, driven by James Finico and Alan Goff, had an engine failure yesterday. They had to get a standard 1600cc engine overnight and drop it in, and that's what they're racing today.
There's Rose Capri just in front of Peter Jansen. He must be saying, what do I have to do to get a clear run down through the S's? Because every time he comes through here, there seems to be some slower traffic at the most awkward part of the circuit. But Captain Jansen gets by. Now swings around Forest Elbow. Takes a nice tight line there because he just couldn't get up enough speed to go anywhere else, having been hampered by the slower car, and now off after Warren Cullen, who's still leading this pursuit. And did I see the squat outline of a Jaguar XJS ahead of them? Certainly we've had one pit stop by that car, number 10, John Goss, who won the race back in 1974 with co-driver Kevin Bartlett.
Didn't seem to be for anything dramatic, Evan. All I saw them do was take fuel on.
Well, they've got a big engine, 5.3 litres and 12 cylinders, and maybe it just has a fairly heavy thirst. So they have made a pit stop. Might just have been a scheduled stop in the race. Peter Jansen driving mostly in the middle.
Pit straight view back to the Hardie Bridge.
And there's, indeed, it is John Goss, who's just been passed by Warren Cullen. Peter Jansen now about to come up on the tail of the Jaguar. John Goss certainly deserves a good run after some years of bad luck. Won here 8 years ago and has had a miserable run of fortune ever since. He has Bob Tullius, the American Jaguar exponent, as his co-driver. Tullius was saying he thought this was probably the most testing circuit he's ever driven on, but loves it.
Johnny Goss in 15th place on the track at the present time after that pit stop.
Sandwich between a pair of Commodores. Warren Cullen has passed. There's the V12 Jaguar. Probably certainly the fastest car in standard form in the race. It's got a speed of something in excess of 150 miles an hour in standard trim. It's in racing trim now and being passed by what you might call family saloons. A little bit modified to police specification and with all the racing modifications which are allowed under this race. It's not for absolutely standard cars, it's for cars modified in the interest of safety and high performance.
We've just gone past the clear-up work after the roll by Kevin Bartlett's Camaro. The head of the field, still Peter Brock, 28 seconds clear of Alan Grice in the James Hardie 1000 for 1982.
Hardie 1000 Classic. We've been following this great scrap between Johnny Goss and, of course, Captain Peter Jansen. And Jansen had Goss beaten, and all of a sudden, Jansen slid wide and Goss was back underneath him again.
Jansen seemed to have some sort of handling problem, mate. The car's weaved a few times, but it's going well now. He's certainly pressing on as though there's no problem with handling.
He makes up all the ground down through the mountain. And of course the Jag has got considerable speed on the straights, and then Jansen has to catch him and try and pass him again at the end of Conrod Straight. So we'll give you some idea of the distance at this part of the circuit, the top end of the circuit. We'll see how they are halfway down it when they reach the bottom of Conrod Straight. Very, very close indeed to Johnny Goss, and I think we'll probably move to the outside and try a pass. No, sits in behind.
I don't think there's any doubt that he'll try and outbrake him when they get towards the end, because the Jaguar is a much heavier car. They've got traffic to pass, that's why he's staying there. Whoops, someone's been visiting the escape road. Car number 44 doing that with Paul Jones in the Mazda RX-7.
Charlie O'Brien in car 11, the Soundwaves Commodore, has made a very quick pit stop for fuel, back on the track in 9th position after that pit stop. At the head of the race, Peter Brock, 05, the dealer team Commodore, has now opened out his lead over Alan Grice to 32 seconds.
Started at 10 a.m. Eastern Australian time, and what a start it proved to be, with Alan Grice on the inside and Peter Brock racing wheel to the first corner. A wall of cars heading into the first turn, with Kevin Bartlett placed in third. George Fury cramped for room there in the middle of the pack as they streamed up mountain for the first time. It was Alan Grice who went down to Brock, then came back to fight back for the lead. Grice managed to retake Brock on the outside as they went up to the top end of the circuit. Then a three-car collision involving Terry Finnegan and two other vehicles brought out the first of the rescue trucks onto the circuit. Another of the Commodores that was beached after running off the circuit at the end of Conrod Straight. That was Fred Geisler. Geisler's car went to the pits. Number 16 also went to the pits, but down the wrong direction. That was Ron Wanless. Wanless headed down after coming into a collision with another vehicle. They repaired the vehicle and he rejoined the race. The car is still out there and running at the moment. And it was Peter Brock's turn. Kevin Bartlett, who was running strongly, in third place. John Harvey was in fourth, if you could miss the trucks. And back in fifth place was Queensland's Dick Johnson. Grice then slid while leading the race, hit a spot of oil, lost control, went off the circuit, and that put Peter Brock firmly in the lead. Grice rejoined the race and is still placed in second. The Finnegan Gates car limped back to the pits, looking for a tyre to fit a square wheel.
That was one of the three cars involved. Garth Wixton, Jeff Lawrence were the other two. Chevy Camaro's having a bad run. Barbecues galore. Had two cars, both came into the pits after damage. The Ron Dixon car, Jeff Leeds car, hit the fence, suffered similar sort of damage. And a great scrap that went on through the early stages of the race between Kevin Bartlett in 9, John Harvey in 25.
Dick Johnson in the pits. Fuel, 3 tyres, quick stop, over the hump, and on his way back onto the track.
These are the new speed humps that have been put along the pit road inside the pits to stop the drivers from speeding out of the pit area.
The exit road is marked by that safety fence on the right. Now he's rejoining the track. And away he goes up Mountain Straight. So he stopped for tyres and fuel.
And is in 6th spot on the track now that he's rejoined the race.
Peter Brock leads Alan Grice by 33 seconds. John Harvey in third place, 21 seconds behind. Johnson was there. He's dropped back though now behind Cullen. Alan Moffat in the Mazda RX-7, then the Japanese driver Hosseini in the turbocharged Bluebird, George Fury in a similar car, and Alan Jones is behind and making up ground all the time.
There are only 6 cars now on the front running lap. Peter Brock, Alan Grice, John Harvey, Warren Cullen, Alan Moffat, Dick Johnson.
Camera view from Dick Johnson's car as we follow him over the top of the mountain in amongst some of these slower cars. Past the vehicle there, picking up Kevin Bartlett's damaged 9 Sports Camaro.
Around the top of the circuit, a frightening crowd coming towards McPhillamy Park, where Gary Leggett had his dreadful crash on Thursday. That's the car out wide. This is Skyline, call for obvious reasons. That's the view you get as you go over the top and down the mountain. And just ride with Dick Johnson down through the S's here, down from the mountain, almost 200 metres high. Down you go. Outside the Ron Wanless car just in front of him was damaged, lost a lot of time in the pits having the front repaired and straightened out. Gary Rogers will take over this car a little later on, but I think they've lost their race. They lost too much time with the train that did bring Wanless wrong way around into the pits. I can imagine there'll be a stern lecture waiting for him when he comes back. And Peter Brock just passing Dick Johnson. That's a lap he's put on him. Johnson has been into the pits, of course. You can see the sudden change in airstream as his windscreen wipers start to get ruffled by the turbulence caused by Peter Brock going by. Dick Johnson has a full load of fuel, so he's heavier than Brock. Is he trying to stay with him under brakes? He's certainly keeping up with him, going a little deeper. Indeed, he is going very hard. There's not a lot of love lost between Peter Brock and Dick Johnson. There's a lot of respect between the two of them. They're friends, but they're very, very serious rivals on the racetrack. Brock accelerating away from Johnson. Johnson has the heavier load, but Johnson presses hard under the brakes, comes in hard on Peter Brock's car. He'll hate to see him get away. He can't afford to have a lap put on him, of course. There are only 5 cars now unlapped by Peter Brock. And Dick Johnson has just suffered the ignominy of being overtaken by the race leader, but he does have one lap, or one pit stop rather, to his credit, up Mountain Straight. Brock is pulling away into the roughs. See how the car's bounce? Watch the nose of the car. Boom, boom, a little bit of a bump there into GTX curve. There's a car on the bend just where he'd like to go, so he's got to take his line a bit tighter than he would have liked as he goes past John Donnelly in the Falcon XD.
Okay, Roy.
Up towards the cutting where Kevin Bartlett hit the bank and crashed. Now towards BP Bend. Alan Grice, who's been running second, is coming into the pits.
In the pits, yes, Alan Grice in the Recar Commodore car number 4. There he is, pulling into the pits. Chris Economaki.
A high rate of fuel consumption has forced him into the pits before the scheduled time, and this could have dire consequences because it could commit the team to 4 stops rather than the planned 3 stops. Here, the team manager is talking with Bryce. Here we've got our clock ticking away. Some 22 seconds have already elapsed. The right-hand wheels are being changed and the air jacks are being let down, but the fuel is not yet all in the car. This tremendous pace that's being set today is burning fuel. Bryce looks cool. He's having a glass of ginger ale, calm at the wheel. Fuel is all in. The left side is going down. They're changing 4 tires on the stop. The car has been in the pits 47 seconds. It's a long pit stop. Johnson was in for the Pearson stop 50.86 seconds. 50.86 seconds. Does this mean you're going to have to make 1 extra pit stop before the day is out?
We're not too sure just at the moment. We're just going to see how it goes. We're going to calculate what fuel we used in that session and we'll sort it out from there.
Do you think you're using more than you planned?
Well, you know, we did a test the other day, but it was in the wet, and you always use more fuel in the wet conditions. So basically, we just wanted to stop a little early and just be on the safe side, and we'll work it out as the race goes on.
Okay, they're going to tot up the fuel again. 50 and 86 100 seconds, a long stop for Alan Grice. Back to the box.
Obviously, Alan Grice was sufficiently concerned about his rate of fuel to come into the pits. That could put a different complexion on the race, and that'll be good news for the Nissans and the Mazdas, because they reckon they can go longer on fuel and they might win with the smaller, shorter number of pit stops.
Alan Grice is now in 4th position, so the race leader 05 Peter Brock in the dealer team Commodore. Johnny Harvey in the 2nd dealer team Commodore is 2nd. Warren Cullen in a Commodore Kart 22 is 3rd. Alan Grice is 4th. And Alan Moffat in the Stuyvesant Mazda is 5th. They are the only 5 cars on the front-running lap. We're back at Mount Panorama after this break.
Classic back at Mount Panorama. And Alan Grice, who was running 4th as you left us for that commercial break, is now fought his way back to 3rd place, having passed Warren Cullen. So Grice back to 3rd as the race continues.
Driving desperately hard there. He wants to get back in the race, lifting the wheel up in that corner. I've seen no car do that before. And look at the way he's leading the car as he comes through. Cullen in 4th place. That's a remarkable effort. Running for his own Settlement Road Salvage Company, 3AW in Melbourne, and up in a great 4th place. Still has to make a pit stop, so he'll lose a bit of time when he does that, but he is well placed, and the way cars are dropping out, who knows? Warren Cullen had such a dreadful year last year. Might be going to be collecting a bit of money this year. Alan Grice, though, still wants to win. He's made that earlier pit stop. We think that John Harvey is about to come in the second of the Marlborough Holden dealer team cars, probably to see how much fuel he needs so that they can pace Peter Brock more accurately and not call him in too early, because if they can just stretch out Peter Brock's stint in the wheel to the longest possible time, they might get by with the 2 stops that they were talking about as being just on the cards.
There have been a couple of driver changes already. Car 3, the Cadbury Schweppes Commodore, Peter Jansen has handed over to David Parsons in that car, and car 31, which was up running 10th a couple of laps ago, and that's the BMW driven by Jim Richards, has been in, and David Hobbs is now at the wheel.
David Hobbs, the British driver, born in England of Australian parents. He has family still in South Australia who'll be following his progress very closely, but now lives in America, so he's a really tangled international. A charming fella, works on American television, and we'll be talking to David Hobbs a little later in the race. Is someone slowing right down? I sure think it is. Car number 11.
Car 11 is Charlie O'Brien in the Soundwaves Commodore.
That's the car that Clive Benson Brown had that fearful crash in earlier in the week.
He's got some more damage there.
Charlie coming into the pits. And the message from the pits is that Peter Brock has been signalled to come into the pits, so we'll keep our eye on the pit action. Chris Economaki is there waiting. Alan Grice will receive that message with a great deal of interest too. He's on two-way radio, as all the top crews are, and they'll pass the message across, not only from their own runners, but they're watching the telecast themselves.
There's the pictures, of course, from Peter Brock's car, the Commodore, heading up Mountain Straight. Follow this lap through, and perhaps if he does come into the pits, we'll be able to ride into the pits and see some of the activity as well. Open racetrack there at the moment for Peter Brock, heading up towards the cutting.
Assimi and the Bluebird is also in the pits.
The flag out to advise that there's a salvage truck. There it is on the right-hand side, taking Kevin Bartlett's wrecked Chevrolet Camaro back to the garage area. Peter Brock now swinging up through these extraordinary fast curves at the top of the circuit, coming towards McPhillamy Park. Along the little straight on top of the mountain. The crowd, probably the most enthusiastic people who have Mount Panorama, go up to the top of the mountain, giving Brock a great cheer every time he goes by. Here he comes from McPhillamy. You've got to get this one right, which he does.
At this stage, he's 1 minute and 6 seconds against ahead of his teammate John Harvey in the second dealer team Commodore.
And ride with Peter Brock down through the S's. The most frightening part of any race circuit in Australia, some people say in the world. David Hobbs, who's driven most tracks, said it's, and Pete and John Fitzpatrick say it's just as tough as the Nürburgring.
There's Alan Moffat. He's been steadily climbing his way up through the field. Number 43, RX-7.
In 5th place on the track at the moment, Mike, but he is a lap down on Peter Brock.
Well, Brock, I think, would be trying to, if he does come in this time around, to get the quickest possible pit stop. It's a very critical one for Peter Brock.
Alan Moffat will be watching these stops with a great deal of interest. He's playing not exactly a tortoise in the hare game, because it's a pretty high-speed tortoise that he's driving. That's Peter Brock, who's just in front of Alan Moffat, so Moffat's got a great feel. He'll see whether Brock goes into the pits or not. He'll be the first to know. He's going quickly, driving on beautiful lines. He's got to conserve that car. He knows he's not going to win on sheer pace. He might win on reliability. Saving tyres, going low on fuel, so he's got to drive a finely judged tactical sort of race. Using fuel in precisely the calculated amount. Saving his tyres, so he doesn't have to go in to change a wheel. Remember that Dick Johnson lost the Perrier Gold Cup event at Royal Park, so we're having to make an unscheduled stop to change tyres, so he doesn't want to fall into the same trap. He's looking after his rubber, watching his fuel consumption, driving to a set plan, lapping at precisely the same time each time, getting that information from his pit crew, watching the other cars, see who goes into the pits. He'll know by now that Alan Grice has gone in early. He'll be saying, right, I think I can discount Mr. Grice. I can catch him. Because he'll make another couple of stops at least, maybe 4. And that's all the sort of incentive that Alan Moffat, who's won this race 4 times, will need. He won his 4 past victories for Ford, switched to Mazda, pioneered the move to peripheral port rotary engines, did a lot of heavy campaigning for them, gained his way last year, ran the not this car but a similar car in the event, came 3rd, surprised a lot of people, and has a real chance of winning this year. Was the moral victor of the Castrol 400 at Sandown. He finished a lap ahead of everyone else, but as you remember, if you watched 7 telecast, he was penalised twice, 1 minute, for travelling at what was adjudged to be excessive speed in the pit lane. And so he lost the race and finished a provisional 2nd. He's still appealing that, but at the moment it's Alan Grice who won that race and Alan Moffat who came 2nd. He doesn't want to come 2nd today. He wants to win Bathurst, wants to put his name alongside that of Peter Brock as one of the only people who have won Bathurst 5 times. Moffat's won 4 times, but so has, way back in the past, people like Bob Jane and Harry Firth. He'd like to join the more distinctive group, consisting solely of Peter Brock, who's done it 5 times. Today could be the day. It'll be determined just how accurately he and his Japanese co-driver, Katayama, will do. Peter Brock, in the meantime, who's in front, has radioed his pit to say he's coming in for petrol. He may, in fact, be out. The car is sucking up air now. He is out of fuel. He's taken it to the absolute limit. He's still going quickly, as you can see. He probably will shake the car to try and drag some fuel up into the pump. He'll get there, I think. Let's see if he has to push the car. This is Alan Moffat past him, so he's certainly slowing. Now, the pitch with their humps and the exit gate will be an impossibility to push if Brock really is out. He's in strike. Let's watch him. He goes through the gate. Yes, he's okay, but he's got a speed limit to worry about, but he'll roll into the pits. Luckily for him, it's one of the very early pits. Brock is cruising in neutral into the pits. Let's watch this stop. Are you there, Chris Economaki?
Right, we're here down in the pits as Brock comes to a stop at the magnificently orchestrated crew as Perkins gets in. No dialogue, however, between the 2 men. Brock is helping Perkins getting strapped in. Now he's talking briefly to him. The fuel is going in the back. All 4 tires are being changed. Brock is ministering to Perkins that there's different sized men, and as a consequence, the seat belts have to be adjusted to different settings. It seems like everything is okay. They're waiting for the car to go out. The brakes are smoking on the car. We've got the clock stopping, the clock running rather. There's a little bit of panic in the back here. There was some delay on getting one of the fuel cans over. This might be a long stop. They've been in 49.85 seconds. I wonder if we could get a word here with Rocky. Peter, how much... well, he's getting his helmet off. We'll be able to get a word with him, hopefully. Peter, how close to being out of fuel were you? And he looks very hot and very tired. We're trying to... Peter, how close on fuel were you?
That was out.
You weren't really out?
That was out on Conrad Straight. I wriggled it around, and I just had enough to get in. I knew if I wriggled it, I'd cause a bit more there, but that was it.
Are you using more fuel than you planned originally?
We had no real idea what we were going to use. Last year we were doing about 37 laps per tank. This year I think I made probably 41 or 42, so we're using less than we have previously, but we're certainly not up towards the 55 mark.
You look hot and sweaty. Has it been a workout this first stint? Has it been physically exhausting for you, this first stint at the wheel?
Yeah, it always is. You go home and think about it now, and it comes easier after lunch.
Okay, go get a rest. Okay, Peter Brock talking about it, and his teammate John Harvey is in now. This is really one busy place. We're going to try and get a word with John as he gets out of the car. Ha ha. Let's see. Okay, John. You look hot and tired.
Oh, I'm hot, but I'm not so tired, really. Hasn't been too bad out there.
Did you have any fuel left when you came in?
Run out on the last lap, just made it down the straight.
Well, so did Brocky. What's wrong? What's happening? Why are we using so much fuel today?
We're not using so much. That's according to plan.
run out and coast in?
Yep.
Oh, what a story. I love this man. Back to the box.
Thank you very much, Chris Economaki. 0-5 maintained the lead despite that pit stop. So the Brock Commodore with Larry Perkins at the wheel is still in front on the track. Alan Grice has now moved to second, though, while Johnny Harvey's car was in the pit, with Gary Scott now at the wheel of car 25. They're in third place. Warren Cullen was in fourth place. He is now also in the pit. Now, whether or not he retains fourth place remains to be seen. I would doubt it very much. I think you'll find that Alan Moffat will now assume fourth place in the race. We'll tidy all that up after this break.
Welcome back to the James Hardie 1000 live from Mount Panorama at Bathurst. And there we have Larry Perkins coming down Conrod Straight, looking for a pass here on one of the slower cars. Takes him on the inside. We also have noted some debris at the bottom of Conrod Straight. Might pick that up for you later. Wire or electrical system has been discarded by one of the competitors. There it is there. I don't think anyone started their own barbed wire fun.
I don't know who discarded it, but I don't think they could be running, could they?
Unless it's part of the wiring of the tyre, maybe the bead.
Race leader Peter Brock going through Hell Corner and once more up Conrod Straight on his 46th lap of this race and a 42-second lead over second place getter Alan Grice. Well, trouble's befallen another car.
Oh, we've got troubles up here. One of our ISO cameras picked it, looks like
Fanico, isn't it? Car 60.
Yes, the man running the standard engine.
Yep.
Oh, that's an expensive crunch.
Well, that
he lost the car.
Night.
Yes, lost the car down the track. There's David Parsons in the Peter Jansen car slowing down, but Fanico is up against the fence. He's now moving very, very slowly. Just how much damage has occurred, I don't know, but he had the car in a spin and just nudged the circuit with the right-hand corner. He's going the wrong way. We've seen a bit of that today, but I hope he doesn't go too far, because that is a dreadful pace he's going. But he's going to try and swing the car to the right and down and go and visit one of the people who live on the circuit. They might be expecting visitors today, but Jim Fanico, if they're watching on television, he's coming for lunch.
Just clearing up the leader situation. There are now 5 cars on the front running lap. Peter Brock, 05, the other 10 Commodore, is the race leader, 41 seconds ahead of the Recar Commodore, driven by Alan Grice. A further 32 seconds then to car 43, to car 17 rather, the Palmer Prudential Falcon car 17, driven by Dick Johnson. Following him is Alan Moffat in the Stuyvesant Mazda, car 43, and the second of the dealer team Commodores, car 25, now being driven by Gary Scott, who's in 5th place. So we've got 5 cars on the leading lap.
And for all you people across Australia who entered the Winner Commodore competition, during the day we'll be taking selected laps, timing them for you, or giving you some indication as to the lap times of Peter Brock and Larry Perkins in the 05 car. We know the competition has been well received, enormous entry list for it. So we wish you all well, and at the end of the day, some lucky person is going to win a Commodore SS. Larry Perkins at the wheel at this moment as we pick up the cars coming through the bottom onto pit straight.
A great load on Larry Perkins' shoulders. In fact, we're entering a fascinating period of the race now where co-drivers are taking over, and there's some variation in the skill and experience of co-drivers. Peter Brock chose Larry Perkins carefully, and you could not wish for a better driver in that he's had Formula One experience and has been a top driver for a number of years. But in the meantime, I think we have, while we watch Larry Perkins circulating, we have Terry Shield, car 37, in the Mazda RX-7 in the pits, and I think Chris Economaki is going to have a word with him.
Terry, you've had one stint at the wheel. What kind of condition is the circuit, and what's the competition like?
The competition's very tough, Chris. The first few laps were very, very hectic. There's been a lot of accidents. There's a lot of wreckage all over the track.
Why do you think there have been so many accidents?
I think perhaps the pace might have been just a little bit too quick, and I think everybody wants to lead straight away, and it is a long day. I think the most important thing is to lead at the end of the day, not in the morning.
I noticed that Wanless has a right front, right rear corner dented in. Dixon's got the flares off his Camaro. O'Brien's right front door is caved in, and one of the Nissans, the left rear quarter panel is caved in. Is this because of the speed or because of bad driving?
I think just the competition itself is very, very, very tough. Everyone's trying really hard out there today, and I think it's perhaps maybe a little bit too hard. But
really, as a Mazda man, what is the advantages of the Mazda over the other cars? Where are they better on the track than, say, the Falcons or the Commodore?
Its biggest asset is the handling and braking and reliability. We can just about drive the car flat out all day without too many problems at all.
Your team, how many fuel stops do you plan?
We've planned on 3. We've got a slightly smaller tank than we should have had, and that's unfortunately going to make us have 3 stops. The last one should be just a quick one to a couple of turns in and out again.
Terry, what business are you in?
I'm a motor mechanic.
Okay, what is the significance of Bathurst and the James Hardie 1000 here in Australia? For someone like yourself, when you go home, what do people ask you and talk to you about?
Well, I think for a competitor, I think it is definitely the greatest race in Australia, and just to compete in it is certainly a great thrill for me and for all the crew that helped me.
Okay, continued good luck. Hang in there. Back to the box.
Thank you, Chris. We've just seen a pit stop by car 41, Denny Hulme, handing over the wheel of the BMW to Stephen Brook. Denny Hulme was world champion, the New Zealander. Stephen Brook would like to be. There's a long way to go. He's also a lot younger than Denny Hulme. That car running a bit like the Mazda, pretty reliably. Doesn't quite have the same pace. Interesting too, as we watch this battle between Larry Perkins and the car that he drove with Peter Jansen in the past. Now being handled by David Parsons, a young Tasmanian driver, very fast young fella. We watch these two. I was talking about the role of co-drivers and how important it's going to be. Peter Brock has handed over to a man with Formula One experience. Peter Jansen has chosen a young man running in sports sedans who has 22 years of at 22 years of age is one of the youngest competitors in the field, out to prove a reputation. But there's going to be some unevenness, Mike Raymond, when we get into people like Alan Grice. Alan is very fast. Alan Brown, whom he's handing over to, is not quite in the same classes as Alan Grice, and that's going to put a fearful load on Alan Brown's shoulders.
Alan Brown, of course, didn't come up tops during the recent CRC race at Amaroo Park, but his finishing record here isn't all that bad, but certainly you would judge that Peter Brock and a few of the other drivers have far more experienced co-drivers. We're following Larry Perkins down through the mountain. He's been kept fairly honest, let me tell you, by the fellow in the Cadbury Schweppes car, who passes just behind him.
Mike, the race has stabilised somewhat after losing 14 cars in the first hour, down to from a field of 53 down to 39. We've still got 39 cars in the race now, coming up towards the end of the second hour.
Larry Perkins, we're hopeful we might be able to get a word with Larry during the next couple of laps.
Larry Perkins involved in a great dice there with one of the Carltons. Right, all good. A bit hard to pick up the view through the in-screen, the insect-splattered windscreen. Comes in.
Okay, Larry Perkins, Mike Raymond. Larry, can you hear us okay? We might wait until Mountain Straight to try and have a talk to Larry.
I think so. The car we just saw him pass was in fact the Warren Cullen entry with Gary Cook now at the wheel. They've been in the pits. That was the Commodore, not the Falcon. A bit hard to tell with all the extensions and so on. In the meantime, it's over to you, Larry Perkins. If you can hear, we can't get him. Okay, he may be talking back to his pit crew. We share a two-way communication with these cars, and they often have a chat to their pit crew, talking about what things are like in the car, and we of course give priority to the pit crew. Another rescue vehicle out there, this time moving Jim Fanico's car, except they can't find it. He's having lunch. Are you listening to us, Larry Perkins? David Parsons giving you a pretty hard time up there, Larry. Indeed he is, but Larry's not talking to us. David Parsons, the young Tasmanian, is behind him and knows he's got a factory car in front, knows he has a Formula One driver at the wheel, and he knows that if he can keep close, he can create something of a reputation for himself. But I'm sure that Peter Jansen would have told the man just behind this car, David Parsons, to take it easy, don't do anything spectacular, just get us to the finish. As you say, I've come second in this race twice by driving quickly, but getting it to the finish, let's try and do the same. It'll be a good year to say that we came second in the James Hardie 1000. There's Larry Perkins, car 05.
Well, he's managed to shake off the challenge as he heads to Conrod Straight. The great race continues. We'll take a break and we'll return. Welcome back to Mount Panorama and a critical pit stop, this time for Alan Moffat.
He was the last of the Mazdas to come in the pits. There were stories before that he had a larger fuel tank than the others. Maybe it's been justified because he did go further before coming in to stop. He came in on lap 50, so he's gone the furthest of all the front runners before refueling, although we haven't as yet seen the Nissan Bluebirds coming. But Moffat away, that's a quick stop. He didn't get out of the car. He'll be sharing this car with the Japanese driver, but he stayed in it, which, unless he changed on the left without me seeing it, I didn't see any change. Did you see anything there, Mike?
No, I didn't, but I noticed he did a very quick steeplechase over the jumps.
It's a left-hand drive car. He had it made that way, built locally, had it made that way because this is a track that does favour weight on the left-hand side of the circuit. Feeds into the track just behind.
Let's go to Chris Kotomaki.
I'm in the pits with Terry Finnegan, who is, his uniform is hardly soiled. You're out of the race very early, Terry. You were involved in that second lap accident, were you not?
That's right, yes.
What was the cause of that crash up there?
The Bayside Wreckers car actually had an engine let go, and they were hit up the back from another car and spun. And that's what caused the chain reaction to...
Was there oil on the track?
Oh, quite a bit of oil, yeah.
It must be a great disappointment for you to have so much preparation to come here and then go out so early.
Oh, that's right. It really does disappoint you a great deal. But we got back to the pits, we got the car going again, and we found the steering rack was bent, so that put us out altogether.
How hard did you hit?
Oh, it wasn't a terribly hard hit at all. What actually happened was the bonnet moved back and cut out the electrical switch.
Well, are you going to stay in your uniform all day, look for a ride, or are you going to get dressed up and go home?
Oh, we'll always try for a ride.
There you go. Okay, Terry Finnegan's out of it, back to the box.
Let's update the great race. Oh, Kevin Bartlett, that's what happened to him. Going back to lap 27, a tyre blew into the wall, overturned. Running hot in third place at the time. Dick Johnson was right on his heels and did miraculously to escape the incident. Kevin Bartlett unhurt, other than his pride, and boy did he curse that tyre. There it is again. The car that was virtually written off in practice on Wednesday, rebuilt. And a lucky escape, but an unhappy ending to the great race for Kevin Bartlett in 1982.
The number 23 car being pushed into the pits.
Alfred Grant, Leo Leonard, Falcon XD.
The car that won the race last year, being driven by the Queenslander Alf Grant, the New Zealander Leo Leonard, not going to win the race this year.
I don't know whether the car in fact ran out of fuel or whether it's going back behind the wall.
Dick Johnson, who won the race in that car last year, is currently in third position this year on the track. Peter Brock, the dealer team Commodore Car 5, is the leader with Larry Perkins at the wheel at the moment. Has a 37-second advantage on Alan Grice in the Recar Commodore. Grice is closing the gap a little. A further 26 seconds then to Dick Johnson, followed by the second of the dealer team cars, 25 with Gary Scott now at the wheel, and then Alan Moffat after that very quick pit stop. No driver change on his part. Moffat is still in the car and is still on the front running lap in 5th position at the present time.
We said at the time that he was the last of the Mazda RX-7s to come in, but we haven't seen Alan Jones come in. He might still be out there, so we watch him. In the meantime, the sole Alfa Romeo in the race, the V6 GTV, just running slowly down the pit lane. Ray Gulson from Canberra. Bruce Linton is the co-driver. Oh, we finally found George Fury. We've been looking for him. Car number 55. Didn't know where he was. Haven't seen him on the track. He's parked. End of the race for one of the Bluebird turbos, George Fury, who had been running up in the top 10. Out of the race, up on top of the mountain. Peter McLeod in the pits. These are all scheduled stops, I would think, at this stage.
Well, I think Alan Jones is going to have to make one very shortly.
It's his second stop, though. No, he came in once for a scheduled stop. Now he's in again, so McLeod is getting out. Dane will take over from him. Beautifully presented car, but it is their second stop.
He was in 8th position when he came in to the stop.
Well, stops are really pouring in there.
Car 19, it's in for about the 4th time.
Greg Topfer and Ken Matthews are driving this car for Citizen Watchers. That was a fairly quick passage over the bump stop there.
Alan Jones, by the way, in the Seiko 7 RX-7 is in 6th position on the track at the moment, 1 lap down on race leader Peter Brock.
There's going to be a critical stop for him. In the meantime now, the Nissan flag is being carried by the Japanese driver. Sasami's still out there getting a long span of action on his first tank of fuel. Hasn't called in yet.
Leading the under 3 litre class and in 7th position outright at this stage after 51 laps of the race.
George Fury looked like having a good payday Unfortunately, though, out of the race, but it at least picked up the $500 Repo high-tech car kit products.
And you can see Alan Jones right behind him. This is a battle for 6th place. So, the same here, the Japanese driver is leading. Alan Jones would like to get back 6th. So I rather like that. He's got to make a pit stop. They both have. And this is a battle for 6th place between the two Japanese factories. Nissan just leading Toyo Kogyo or Mazda down the straight. They both must be very close to fuel stops, but they're both hoping to go through just the 2 stops for petrol.
The lap money awards, Evan, I was going to say, certainly have been picked up by the Marlborough Holden dealer team. That's presented by Kmart, the Auto Race Leader Award, with the exception of the first lap, which of course was the $1,000 Gregory's Auto Service Manuals Award that went to Gracie. That kept it up to $16,000 for the weekend so far. But in the meantime, Peter Brock has been collecting most of that lap money.
Hosseini has a little more speed down the straight, pulled a bit away from Alan Jones, but Jones seems to be able to close up a little bit on the corners.
56 has made a stop, in fact, and it's now Hoshino at the wheel of the Bluebird. Jones, I think he must be the only man on the track that hasn't been into the pits, isn't he?
He must have heard of the Bill's bigger tanks.
Certainly among the front runners. And of course, they have a saying, true or not, that you don't win on the track, you win in the pits.
By the way, 8th place on the track is occupied by car 10.
What that means is the less time you can spend in the pits, the better your chances of winning.
Car 10 is that big British cat, the Jag, driven by Johnny Goss.
So it's Hoshino at the wheel, Alan Jones following him. Now Hoshino's pulling away. The Turbo certainly has the sting up the hill. Look at the margin he's opening between himself and Alan Jones. We'll see what Alan Jones can do about it on the top of the mountain. In the meantime, they're going past the Ray Gulson Alfa Romeo GTV. Lovely looking car, but not developed to the same extent for racing as this full factory car, turbocharged 1.8 litre 4-cylinder engine. Brought a Japanese pair of drivers over. There were 2 Australians in the other car. George Fury and Fred Gibson was to have driven. Fred didn't get a Guernsey though this time because they have parked the car.
That's the way they stand on the Phillips scoreboard at present time with 52 laps gone in the race. It's car 5 in the lead. The Holden dealer team Commodore Larry Perkins at the wheel at the present time. Alan Grice in the Recar Commodore in 2nd place. Dick Johnson in the Palmer Prudential Falcon, car 17 in 3rd spot. The second of the dealer team cars, 25, Gary Scott driving at this stage in 4th spot. Then Alan Moffat, car 43, the Stuyvesant Mazda. And in 6th place at the moment is car 27, the Seiko 7 Falcon, driven by former World Motor Racing champion Alan Jones.
The RX-7 Falcon.
RX-7, what did I say?
Okay, we'll take a break and return. More updated information on the James Hardie 1000.
Back to that position, he's coming out of commercial in 10.
What have we got to do then? Let's break this up, pull a bit out of the box, let's get that changed and speak it right as well.
Pit row, Mount Panorama, and some frantic work beneath the Falcon car number 20, Graham Moore, the King George Tavern entry. They've got problems at the back. Mechanics under the cars, just held by the jack, shouting out for some more tools.
Oh.
And it would be, yes, it would be hot and unpleasant under the car. They've got well, they've got a brace to hold the car for safety's sake. Graham Moore sitting in the car ready to go. He didn't start the first run. That was Joe Moore who led off, handed over to Graham, but Graham isn't having much of a run at the moment. He's got the wheels up and he's raring to go. He's been a veteran competitor here for many years, but that car is not going to move for very long, I don't think.
Johnny Goss on the track in the big Jag. There's something wrong with the bonnet of his car.
Yeah,
it's either had a nudge there or it's come loose.
It's a bonnet that's hinged at the front. That's not too bad, I don't think. Yes, it seems to
Wouldn't be too good either.
No, but if the air pressure will keep it down. It's not like a bonnet that's hinged to the back and open from the front. At least he's not likely to have it fly up. But they have been in for fuel, and maybe it just wasn't properly clipped.
Here comes Moffat into the pits. No, it's not. Alan Jones, rather.
So this is the critical stop then. I don't know whether Chris Economaki is near there. We've certainly got the stopwatch on him. But Alan Jones is getting out. Barry Jones will get in the car, and Jones will be quick. Barry, I mean, he built the car, so he knows all about it, and he has been one of the leading Mazda runners in competition at Amaru Park. A second churn of fuel goes in. They got a long distance on that first tank, so that gives them a great advantage. They ran longer than Moffat, and that means if it comes to the crunch at the end and they've got a greater reserve of fuel in the closing laps, they can go harder, so that could give them an advantage. So Jones drove a very canny sort of first spell, then he was fast, he got up well into the leaderboard, running in 6th place, and has gone further than the others, so that shows you the experience of a man like Alan Jones. They've been in the pit zone for 45 seconds. Tyres going on, just as a precaution. I would think they probably need them, but they put them on. A bit of trouble with the tyre on the left-hand side. The man at the back gives the signal when all is clear. He's supervising things. Well, he hasn't signalled yet. And Barry Jones is gone. Thank you very much. Alan Jones in the pit. Has a drink. He looks hot. He's lost a lot of moisture. You can see his hair is wringing wet. It's hard work out there. And if we can get Chris Economaki down there just to have a chat with him, we certainly shall. But things are really busy along pit road. There are cars and equipment spread all along the full lane. Well, Alan Jones certainly enjoying a much better race than last year when he went with Warren Cullen and survived for 1.5 laps. In the meantime, it's the Jaguar XJS of John Goss, who will be sharing this car with the American Bob Tullius, making the big cat purr up on top of the... No, the bonnet still is loose. They might have said it like that. In fact, after the stop, he might be suffering from overheating. And they put a couple of chocks under it just to let the air get out from the bonnet. I don't know. We'll find out when we check with the pits.
Car immediately behind Gossie is the black BMW car 31 being driven at this stage of the race by Englishman David Hobbs.
Be worth watching David Hobbs. He was absolutely sensational to watch down through these bends. There he is now in the black car. That's David. A highly experienced driver. Drives for BMW in America.
Brian Callahan moves over.
Yes, Hobbs is quick through there. Drove on the circuit for the first time last year, but people who were watching it said he was the fastest down through those bends and did it with such beautiful smoothness and fluidity of style. There he goes, going to pass the Jaguar. I don't think he'll have the legs to sustain that challenge. He's alongside him. And he draws a little bit in front. In fact, he'd like to go right in front. I don't think he's going to move across, but he may do so, which he now does. That's pretty close manoeuvring. John Goss is now getting a bit of a tow, but he can't keep up with the BMW. And look at the way that Hobbs is drawing away. I wonder if Goss has got problems. He's really slowing down by comparison.
Yes, he is.
Into the pits. Yes, the light is flashing. So John Goss is going into the pits. We might find out now just what the reason for that raised bonnet is. John Goss now heading up pit lane. Man who won the race back in 1974.
In 8th position at the moment, going into the pit. He won't remain in that spot, of course.
And there's Bernie Stack. I just got a glimpse of the only South Australian in the race right behind David Hobbs. We might join him in a while, but in the meantime, let's watch this pit stop. John Goss comes in. Is he going to hand over to Bob Tullius? Yes, he is. That's Bob on the left. A former American football player, represented the US Air Force football game, was injured in that, decided to take up some other sport, took up motor racing, and has been the leading Jaguar driver in North America. Is contracted to the factory, runs his own business. A wheel change. One would imagine that the big Jaguar might be a bit heavy on rubber. It's the heaviest car in the race. Little overflow tank at the bottom. And there it comes. You see the fuel coming out the overflow pipe. All the pit crew members, rather, in these changes are trained. They practice for weeks doing their specific task. One man in charge. When they're finished, up go the hands. They are required to wear flameproof suits, those who look after refueling, because it's a hazardous business.
I thought they were extras from Tora there for a moment, the way they sprang into life.
John Goss helping Tullius just to do up his belts. They're different in size. Tullius a bit slimmer and taller than John Goss, so they may just need a slight seat adjustment. The bonnet has been closed, so it was open accidentally, I'd say. See the clips there, which are at the rear of the bonnet? They've been put down. They couldn't have been done up before. They've taped over it, which maybe suggests that the clips came loose. They've fixed it, whatever it was. A man working on the right-hand side, you can see, to stop it coming up. Yes, John Goss didn't like it. Bob Tullius about to get his first look in anger at Mount Panorama. Off he goes. Oh, they've got to push starting. They can't get it to run. Now, is this just to the back of the pits or to get the car going? It didn't fire up. It's away. And Bob Tullius is out on the track, passing our man in the pits, Chris Economaki. And Chris...
Yes, I'm here with Kevin Bartlett. First of all, Kevin, how are you?
I'm fine. No problems at all.
No aches or pains?
No, the car is very strong. The roll cage is magnificent and held up just fantastically.
Now, it was very, very visible on our coverage of your accident that you had a left rear tire. Did you cut that going over something? Did it blow out? What was the cause of the tire problem?
Well, the tire wasn't at fault. In fact, it was a rim split and let the air out instantly. I got no warning at all. The corner before it, the car was perfect on. Went to turn into the right, in the same place, incidentally, that Colin crashed on Wednesday, and the tyre went straight down. It's just one of those things, really.
You had it, I saw you at full lock to the left, sliding, then you hit, and then the left front wheel got up on the rail, and that sent you tumbling, did it?
Yeah, it was one hell of a ride, I tell you. I haven't... I was complaining a couple of weeks ago. I had a rally car get upside down about a month and a half ago, and... The only complaint I had was they didn't have any cameras out in the bush. I can't complain about the cameras not being there this time.
Well, you know, Kevin, this is the first time I've come to Australia where you weren't either in bandages, on crutches, or in a wheelchair. And I thought, you know, gee, this is great to see a whole Kevin Bartlett, and now you're doing stunts with the car. The car, I'm told, was very, very badly damaged during the week. Is it finished now?
Oh, yes, it's totaled. The car, apart from the damage it got during the week, this one certainly finished it off. It broke its back, and I couldn't even open the door to get out. I had to get out through the window. It's an absolute total wreck.
Are you aware of the steering that Dick Johnson did to avoid you? He was not a car length behind you when you did that dido.
Well,
there it is on the screen.
I didn't see that completely, but Dick must have been very, very lucky to get through that.
If it's possible, we could replay this. Kevin wasn't watching the screen. He hasn't seen this picture yet. If we could have it once again, it would help, I think, and Kevin get an idea of what the ride looked like. There it is. There's the indictment of the wheel, right?
That's what it was.
Now, that's the second wheel that split. Was this the same kind of wheel that was on Bob Morris's car? Here we go again now.
Yes,
there you go. Up.
But in a different place. Yes, Dick is certainly taking some avoiding action now. He's gone to the right. And I think at about this time with the brakes on hard has decided my car's in his way. He's going to have to go to the left.
Johnson by now, see?
He's done a very, very good job of work to get around me. Lucky he didn't go in with me.
Well, Kevin, it's nice to see you in one piece. Thank you for coming by our position.
Thank you, Chris.
Better luck next time. Back to the box.
Thank you, Chris Economaki and Kevin Bartlett.
Oh, avoiding action there on the part of Alan Grice, going around the top of the circuit. In second place on the track at the present time, 37.3 seconds astern of the dealer team Commodore Car 5, at the moment being driven by Larry Perkins. The Settlement Road Auto Salvage car is in the pits with Warren Cullen. He's slipped from about the third spot down to 14th at this stage, and we'll be back to check out the rest of the action at Mount Panorama after this break.
Running against, but Bob Tullius is at the wheel.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama at Bathurst. The Golden Oldies, John French and Kevin Bartlett, have a few words. John French has his helmet on, patching up, and it seems that within the next couple of laps we will have Dick Johnson into the pits and a driver change effected.
Car 21, Stephen Harrington, involved in that pile up at the top of the mountain earlier on the second or third lap. They've had to do some extensive work on that car down there. I think we might go down and see if we can find out what it's all about in a moment from Chris Economaki, who's moving in to take a closer look at the action. I saw them out there with a sledgehammer a moment ago, having a go at the front of the car. I don't know quite what they've had to put back in order there, but it's certainly taking them some time, and it's not doing their position much good. I notice immediately behind too, and about to get wheeled past. If we hold this shot, you'll see Warren Cullen's Commodore. Yeah, there it goes, running as high as third earlier and being pushed off the track and behind the pit lane at this moment. So that puts an end to Warren's chances after he's been as high as third and fourth position in the race. The car really running well, but dropped down to about 15th position after one pit stop and has then had to come back in again. Has now been pushed behind the pit road from some more extensive work.
Wins friction proofing have added considerably to the purse here at the James Hardie 1000 this year. $500 goes to the overall leader at 1 o'clock. That's 20 minutes away or so, or 40 minutes away. That's to $500, and $500 at 2, 3, and also at 4 o'clock. So wins friction proofing, obviously heavily involved financially in this year's James Hardie.
Ron Wanless handing over to Gary Rogers. Gary will be a most disappointed driver that he doesn't have a winning chance anymore. Meantime, where all the action is happening, it's over to Chris Economaki.
Well, we've got a lot of damage. Example of a car being serviced in the pits. Driver changes, and then back here is a car that has got all kinds of damage on it.
I'd say we have a slight microphone problem there for the moment.
We've seen a race today where body damage and suspension damage has been really at quite a high. We're going to try and get a word with the driver here as to what caused things of this nature. What happened that got the front corner so banged up?
Well, I wasn't driving the car at the time, Chris, but one of the other cars in the race blew an engine up in the cutting, and Garth had nowhere to go, and it was just unfortunate. He was on oil, there was parts of car everywhere, and he couldn't do anything about it. He just slipped on the oil.
You think you'll get back okay?
Well, you know, you've seen the car. We'll give it a go, you know.
Okay, patiently waiting here, but that seems to have been the story of the James Hardie 1000 today. The top 10 are driving very well, but those who qualified further on down seem to be all over the track. There's dented fenders, bent doors, scratched bodywork all over this racetrack today. Back to the box.
Thank you very much, Chris Economaki. It seems to me, Evan, the reason that that's happening, the top 10 are driving so well and so fast, the others are getting into strife trying to keep up.
Well, Garth Wixom was in fact in 7th place when that happened. It was just terribly unfortunate, as young Stephen Harrington pointed out. The car in front seized his engine. One of those things, it suddenly stopped, and 2 other cars ran into it. We lost 3 cars effectively from the front of the grid. They're now trying desperately. They're making good use of those STP stickers to patch the car up. That's making use of a sponsor's product fairly well.
Race leader Peter Brock, and there are now only 4 cars on the leading lap with Brock, and 3 others with Brock. Brock is 37.3 seconds ahead of Alan Grice, the Recar Commodore, then 25 seconds to Dick Johnson in the Palmer Prudential Falcon, and the 4th car, the last remaining car on the lead lap, is the second dealer team car driven by Gary Scott.
We've got, of course, the driver in this car, Larry Perkins. Grice is still running alone. That means at the end of the race, Peter Block will be driving in car 5, and Alan Brown will be in car 4.
Top 10.
That could have a bearing on the overall result.
Top 10 printout from the Channel 7 computer, the input from Texas Instruments, and you can see the positions there with only one of the lower class 3-litre cars in contention in that situation at the moment. That's car 56, which is being driven by a Japanese combination.
Yes, we lost car 55, George Fury. We're not sure what happened. He's parked it on top of the mountain. The turbocharged Bluebird is out of the race. Larry Perkins has certainly got a fire going. He's going very hard into the pits in the meantime. It's Dick Johnson in, and he's going to hand over to John French. It's over again to Chris Economaki.
Chris just moving into position as the action starts surrounding Dick Johnson's car.
Take it away, Chris Economaki.
here in the pit side. Dick Johnson is turning over to John French, and only 2 hours and 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hello.
That was a quick stop.
2 hours and 25 minutes into the race, you've made your second stop. Are we burning too much fuel?
No, it's not so much. Oh, pardon me. It's not so much the fuel, Chris. It's the oil. You know, it's that problem that we've had all week. Basically, it's come back again, and it's worn out the rings. First, you got no rings in it, but these old Henrys run with nothing in them anyway. So.
Well, you put new rings in overnight, right?
Yeah, the trouble was they were Holden rings. No wonder they don't work.
Good. Well, it's nice you can take it so lightly. I'm touching your back of your uniform. You're soaking wet. How physically demanding is it today?
Oh, it's pretty hot out there, and, you know, with the fumes coming inside the car, it gets a bit hard, but no problem. I feel great.
Let me express our thanks and appreciation for your in-car camera work for us.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Okay, Dick Johnson, a happy fellow, despite the fact that his old Henry is running without rings. Back to the box.
And who needs rings, eh, Chris? Well, he's got John French driving the car now. He's got to catch this man, Larry Perkins, in car 5. And he also has to catch the man running in second spot, Alan Grice. He's got 2 Commodores in front. Maybe they've got Ford rings in their engines.
Johnson Falcon slipped only 1 spot on the track during that very quick pit stop, so it's still the dealer team Commodore of Peter Brock, Larry Perkins at the wheel, in front from Alan Grice in the Recar Commodore. Then the second dealer team Commodore driven by Gary Scott, followed by John French in the Palmer Prudential Falcon.
Larry Perkins making good moves here in traffic, and he's got a lot of traffic he's weaving in, inside and outside of. A lap or so back, he almost had an anxious moment there on the top of McPhillips Park. Got it right out into the marbles on the outside of the circuit. As I mentioned earlier, we'll occasionally during the day keep the timer going and bring you up to date with the lap times being afforded the Brock car, number 05, for all you people around Australia who entered the winter Commodore SS competition.
Larry Perkins came originally from Cowangi in Western Victoria, a member of a great motoring family. His father and his uncle were great rally drivers. Larry took up racing, tried all different sorts of categories in this country, went overseas, drove in Formula 1, has come back to Australia now, and for the last few seasons has partnered Peter Jansen in this race. This year, he's moved into the Holden dealer team as co-driver for Peter Brock, and he's doing a great job keeping the car in front, keeping him well ahead of Alan Grice in the second spot, nursing it nicely. I know that Peter Brock has a very healthy respect for the abilities of Larry Perkins. We've got the clock running now. See how Larry Perkins goes round the track. And if you've entered the Clock Rock competition, see how close the times that Larry Perkins are putting up compared to those that you submitted in your entry to try and win the SS Commodore.
So it's a reasonable first prize, isn't it? A new Commodore SS. Some lucky viewer who entered the competition and has been watching our telecast on the 7 Network around Australia is going to win a new Commodore SS. Good luck to all those who entered.
I wonder if they guessed a fast enough speed there. If they were going on previous years, they might have said, oh, maybe they'll do the lap record. Of course, they've been way under in practice, and I suspect we'll have a new record during the race as well. Haven't seen official times for the sort of speeds that are being given around here, but I'm sure they'll be well under the previous mark, which was held by Peter Brock when he drove a Tirana back in 1979. That was the previous best, 2 minutes 20.9. Dick Johnson got close last year, 2 minutes 20.98, only 800ths away. But the record stands to Brock, but he was 3.5 seconds under that time in practice.
We do have an unofficial 2:20.5 for Brock earlier in the race today.
Well, so that should be sufficient to put his name, or to retain his name in the record books, just to make them change the time and the make of car from Tirana to Commodore. Larry Perkins always was quick through here. People who used to watch on this most selected part of the circuit, those with a real interest in the handling of cars, used to always go to the S's, reckon that Larry Perkins is one of the good ones to watch. David Hobbs was smooth and very fast. Larry Perkins was very fast, often lifted his wheels up a little bit, but he's going through there quickly and being particularly adept at threading his way through traffic. Well, a critical stage of the race, co-drivers in command. Larry Perkins, very highly regarded in the lead car. Alan Grice still in his car, hasn't handed over to Alan Brown yet. He'll have to do the last stint because there's a limit to how long one driver can run. Can't run the whole race, can't even run beyond a certain proportion, about 2/3. One driver must at least cover about 1/3 of the distance of the race. John French in car 17, running in 3rd place for Dick Johnson. I know Dick has a very high opinion of John French. There are 3 drivers. There we are, 2:23. If he can maintain that sort of time, lap after lap, they won't catch him. They won't catch him. In the meantime, you may recall earlier in the race, we saw a car come into the pits the wrong way around. The driver was Ron Wantless, and he's in the pits with Chris Economaki.
Ron, you made an emergency pit stop earlier. What was the reason?
Well, it was my own fault, Chris. I braked a little late going into Hell's Corner, and I touched the Armco up there, and it just didn't, it felt a bit wobbly, so I just pulled in here just to check it because there's a bit of fiberglass on the wheel.
But you came in the pits the wrong way. That's a no-no, right?
Well, I could have been, but I haven't been in this game all that long, and I didn't quite know. I just thought anyway, and get in the pits. I reckon there wouldn't be many other people there at about that time anyway.
Did you get a penalty for coming in the wrong way?
Well, they haven't caught me yet, so nobody's talked to me yet. You're the first guy that's brought it up.
Okay, you didn't want anybody to know about it. What's the track like? Is it the surface? Any oil, debris around the track at all?
It's quite dusty up there, and turning Castrol Corner going on the mountain is very dusty, and over the top where a couple of guys have looked upside down, it's sort of, yeah, it's not real good, you know.
Okay, you're going to get all your problems fixed?
Yeah, they're just about right now. We're going to go now.
Okay.
Lost a bit of time.
Good luck to you. And back to the box.
Thank you very much. Ron Wantless was the driver who was involved in an incident with Kevin Bartlett last year. If you remember your races, Kevin stalked off the pits to have a talk to the driver, and he looked very aggressive. When he found it was Ron Wantless, he came back, because Ron used to be a boxer. He looks a bit contented and happier now. We'll be returning with all the action here at Mount Panorama in just a few moments. Following Alan Grice is Gary Rogers, has really got the bit between his teeth. Gary Rogers, his car has lost a lot of time with Ron Wantless having that incident which brought him into the pits. But he now has himself right on the tail of Alan Grice. Alan Grice running second. Gary Rogers trying desperately hard to stay within sight and to try and get back into contention in this race. They've lost a lot of time, but there's no greater fighter in this race than Gary Rogers. And look how he's going in pursuit of Alan Grice, but he's not making up ground because Grice really is driving superbly. The first man to ever lap Mount Panorama in a touring car at 100 miles per hour. Won pole position yesterday, has a car with which he's very happy, a very relaxed and contented Alan Grice. But he's doing a second long stint at the wheel, wants to get back up where he can put Alan Brown in the car, his co-driver, and give him a chance of winning this race. So he's trying to shave tenths of a second all the time, and in hot pursuit is Gary Rogers, who has to make up a couple of laps because they lost that time in repairing their car. Ron Wanless told you how he slid wide on the end of pit straight, hit the fence, came into the pits in the wrong direction, had the car repaired, so they've lost time and lost distance. And a great battle between two of the leading Commodore exponents, Alan Grice running in second spot, and behind him Gary Rogers.
Well, the critical pit stop for Grice obviously will be the changeover stop, where Alan Brown comes into, or Grice comes in for Brown to take over. It has been suggested that Alan Brown, of course, isn't as quick as Alan Grice, and perhaps they may pay the penalty of that later in the race. But then again, Alan Brown owns the cars.
Well, Alan is quick. I was talking to Alan Grice. He said that he thinks Alan Brown has a trouble on circuits that go to the right, like Amaru. He just has difficulty going that way as quickly as to the left. This is a left-hand circuit, and Alan Brown might find it much more to his liking. John Goss's car, with Bob Tullius driving, is in front of him. The bonnet has come loose again. I'm sure that the clip has broken free, the mounting for the clip, which is why the bonnet is lifting up on the big XJ S-Jaguar V12. See how it's lifting again at the back? It'll do no more than irritate the driver. It won't flap up because the wind pressure will keep it down, but the bonnet has come loose again on the Jaguar. One of the Capris running in the class for 3-litre cars, about to be engulfed, first of all by Alan Grice, then by Bob Tullius in the Jaguar, and then by Gary Rogers. Tullius doing a good job, the American.
Yes, very good.
First time on the circuit, but a fellow who's been around many times is the bespectacled Larry Perkins, driving for Peter Brock in 05. He's driven most things in his time. Larry came up from the school where they don't always believe in gloves. Probably finds it very hot there. You can see Perkins' hands bare on the wheel, which is unusual. Peter Brock, of course, has the long red gauntlets. Larry Perkins driving the car barehanded. Comes towards the JPS bridge, the braking marker, the last 350, slows it down through the gears, keeps the car well to the right. Onto pit straight, just puts the wheel over the white line and over the second one, takes a bit more of the extra road there, goes past the VIP boxes, the pit's on the left, and once again goes up Mountain Straight. Like Bob Holden's escort that he passed. Bob, who is one of 3 drivers in the race who ran in the very first Armstrong 500 back in 1960. Recorded his fastest ever laps in practice, so it just shows that some drivers get better as they go on. Bob is now in his 50s. Imagine what he'd be like when he's 80.
No pension for Bob. Up to the cutting now as we follow race cam inside the 05 Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodore, Larry Perkins at the wheel.
Big spoiler on one of the Mazda RX-7s. They really are an exaggerated shape there, just to capture air, to give a slightly sharper profile to the car so that they get a better flow through the air. Larry Perkins working hard. You can see the corrections, constantly working on that wheel. That rest room at all up on top of the mountain. And he's going quickly too. An occasional glance at the instruments, looking at the mirrors to see who's behind him. No one's about to overtake him, but he must always be conscious of what's going on. Coming up towards the top, he'll be near McPhillamy corner at the moment. He'll take a little bit of a bite to the left. Then when you see him braking with the pedal, there he is. Now he's coming down the mountain. The left foot on the brake, he may have even changed without the clutch sound. Gets the revs precisely right. His feet are busy on the ballet dancer dancing on an ant's nest with bare feet. Up to third. Down the mountain. Back to second. This will be through Forest Elba, who's about to come out on the straight. He'll go up for third in a moment. Well, boom into third. Around the corner, he'll pick up fourth about this point, and then flat out up to about 6,800 revs along the straight. Larry Perkins in 05, leading the race. He'll do a long stint, hand over then to Peter Brock, who'll finish the race off. So it's Commodores leading at the moment.
Some more pictures from Larry Perkins' race cam.
Very close to these cars, Mike, we have a couple of Mazda RX-7s, Alan Moffat, Alan Jones, well placed. The Nissan Turbo Bluebird, the Sami and Shino, who again well placed. So becoming a very interesting race. It's power and capacity out front. Some of the The newer type cars, rotary engines and turbocharged Fords are very, very well placed.
The type of race, Evan, that the winner will possibly come from the 3:30 mark until the race finish. I don't think this race will be fully clarified until the last 3/4 of an hour. Let's take a look now, courtesy of Texas Instruments, of the top 10 in the race. Peter Brock, Larry Perkins in Commodore number 5, leading from Alan Grice and Brown. In 3rd place is the Harvey Scott entry. 4th, Dick Johnson and John French. 5th, the Mazda of Moffat and Katayama. 6th place, the Bluebird of Asimi and Ashino. 7th, the BMW of Richards and Hobbs. 8th place, held down by Jansen and Parsons. 9th place, the Commodore, Benson, Brown and Charlie O'Brien. And 10th place, the Jones boys, Barry and Allen. We'll take a break and return to the great race.
I'm with John English, one of the early retirees in today's race. John, what goes through your mind when you suddenly realize that the race is over for you long before it should be?
Well, it's disappointing from our point of view, Chris, because a lot of people have put a lot of money and a lot of effort behind our car. The City of Townsville and the Bissell Sweeper Company got into sponsoring the car at the last minute, and it must be disappointing for them not to see the car running around.
Does it give you a feeling that you've let them down?
In a way, yes, of course. Whenever you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're always letting people down, but we, like anybody, can only do our best. There's a lot more professional crews out there not running around the track at the moment.
When did the project work begin for the Bathurst, the James Hardie 1000 1982? How long have you been working on the car?
Well, we've been looking at this race since we bought the car. It's Alan Moffat's car that he ran in 1980. It did 3 laps. We've basically been preparing for this since we bought that in March. So it's been a very long haul for us.
What's the budget been for this challenge?
Very small. We've done it on a shoestring. We've not had the funds that the other teams have had available to them, so we're pretty happy with the fact that we did a time that last year would have put us 6th on the grid in the top 10.
Well, so you're out of this year. Will you be back next year?
You better believe it, Chris.
Okay, here's a man that's coming back next year, back to the bottom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Followed Bill O'Brien. They're having a bit of a lose, but managed to get back on the road again without too many problems. Number 40, the McLeod Dane RX-7, the Strongbow car, getting stronger as the hours go by.
Remember, Mike, this car ran terribly well in the Perrier Gold Cup at Oran Park at the end of the 100 laps there. I think they finished in 3rd spot, and it could still be going just as strongly here at the end of this James Hardie 1000.
Well, follow the car up to the mountain. Dane at the wheel now. Cloud drove the first step.
They're in 11th spot at the present time in the outright positions, although 2 laps down on the race leader, Peter Brock, Larry Perkins.
And going through there on the inside. Very, very quickly indeed as we swing across the top through McPhillamy Park. There's the Rogers Wanless car with Gary Rogers at the wheel. Very, very fast yesterday, made Hardie's heroes. In fact, it's seldom that Gary Rogers doesn't make a top 10 qualifying berth at Mount Panorama. There's Peter Dane at the wheel of car 40, the Strongbow Mazda RX-7. Running strongly, as Gary said, 11th place in the field at the moment. Cackle of the RX-7, the gear shift. Open spaces at Conrod Straight. Not a great deal of traffic ahead of them as they head down there, and the throttle buried all the way to the floor. You can really hear the engines twisting as they peak along Conrod Straight.
That Ricard Commodore pulling right away from the Mazda RX-7 down towards the bottom of Conrod. The Strongbow car will close up some under brakes around the corner. A lighter vehicle and easier on the brakes. You can afford to leave it a little later. Up under the Hardie Bridge, and there's the Ricard vehicle just disappearing off the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
Their own distinctive cackle, the RX-7s. After our commentary team has spent 4 or 5 days here at Bathurst, we almost go home deaf to the noise of these little RX-7s cackling away in the pit area. Listen to the high-pitched shrill as we follow Dane up into Castrol, the right-hander. It's like an old Mustang fighter plane. He's going well though. Roger's still managing to pull away. Cabbage entry there, number 30. Dane has closed up on him through the cutting. Heading up now to the top of the mountain.
70 laps gone in the 1982 James Hardie 1000. Still car 5, the dealer team Commodore with Larry Perkins at the wheel, and doing very well because he's holding pretty much the lead that he had over Alan Grice when he assumed control of the car. 34 seconds ahead of car 4, the Ricard Commodore and Alan Grice. And there's a further 1 minute and 11 seconds, 71 seconds, between Alan Grice and the third place getter on the track, and that's car 25, the second dealer team vehicle being driven by Gary Scott. They're the only 3 cars on the front running lap at the present time.
Well, we've been noticing how quickly Cabbage's car really lifting a wheel there. Gary Scott is the third car in that group of 3. We'll see how the Mazdas are so quick over the mountain down into the dipper. And as soon as they hit Conrod Straight, you'll be able to see just how quickly Scott can pull them in.
4th place in the race, and a lap down at the moment is car 17, the Palmer Prudential Falcon. John French at the wheel, followed in 5th spot by the Stuyvesant Mazda, Alan Moffat, and then car 56, the Nissan Bluebird, being driven by Hasimi and Hoshino, the Japanese combination. Hoshino at the wheel at the present time. They're the top 6 cars. From there on, it's 2 laps down to car 31, the BMW with David Hobbs at the wheel at the present time, and he's being very hotly pursued on the track at the moment by car 3, the Commodore, the Cadbury Schweppes entry, being driven by David Parsons.
Gary Scott moving here to the outside. McLeod, I don't think saw him. Oh, he has now.
Getting a little tight in there.
But Dane continues. So he's able to keep that gap on Scott down Conrod Straight. Now Scott starts to pull to the outside. You'll see him
look at the power.
Race up, pass him, and now dip down on the approach to Castrol. Rough little piece of the circuit just here, as you'll see the car's bottom. So Scott goes through, and Dane there still follows him up the mountain.
Apparently the damage to the front of the car caused when John Hardie was driving hasn't really caused much of a problem. It's just cosmetic. There may be some interruption to the airflow, but it doesn't seem to be hampering the car. And Gary Scott, the young Queensland driver, really is doing a first-class job. An enormous load on the shoulders of the co-drivers in these critical stages of the race. He's doing well. Threading his way through the traffic, maintaining the fast laps that he's required to do, keeping the car in one piece. And maybe, just maybe, John Harvey will have the good run that he's lacked, that he's missed so badly in the last couple of years. He's had tyres go, been involved in other people's accidents, and really hasn't had a good result here. Undoubtedly one of Australia's best drivers, and has been for many years. And Gary Scott, the son of an illustrious father, the late Glenn Scott, Queensland racing driver, is really doing the team proud, bringing the car down through the mountain now. He's just pulling away from Peter Dane in the RX-7. The most popular car in the race is the Commodore. There were 17 of these entered in the race. Not all of them started, and certainly not all of them still running, particularly after 3 of them were eliminated in one crash on lap 2 when the car in front seized the motor and the others piled into it. Ford Falcon, the next most popular. 14 cars were entered, and then 13 of the Mazda RX-3. So they're the dominant makes of cars in this year's race. No longer do we have the separate classes such as used to exist, this time just divided into 2, big cars and smaller cars. But no little cars. 3 litre is the limit this year. And it's the big cars leading the way as you're watching the great race. We'll be returning to the action in just a few moments.
That's the Phillips scoreboard that's set up in the infield here at Mount Panorama, that's visible from wide areas of the track to keep all the fans informed of just where their favourites are on the track. And as you read across, you'll see 72 laps is the high score, but there are only 3 cars on the 72 lap. That's the race leader, 05, the dealer team Commodore, Larry Perkins at the wheel, then Alan Grice in the Recar Commodore, and Gary Scott driving the second dealer team car, Commodore 25. The gap between first and second is 37 seconds, so Perkins is doing a great job out there, and it's a minute 14 seconds between Grice and Gary Scott. There's Alan Moffat, car 43. He's in 5th position on the track at the present time, just behind Dick Johnson, a lap down on the leading trio. Looks like Gary Wilmington there, is it?
Yes, he's slowed right down and just creeping down a very precarious... Oh, you've got a flat tyre on his inside left wheel. You'll see it, the left-hand side, the back is flat, and he's taking it down as slowly as he can. Doesn't want to go too slowly because he'll lose a lot of time, but if he goes too hard, he might damage the suspension. Alan Moffat running in 5th place. He'll hand over to the Japanese co-driver, Katayama, a 42-year-old veteran who is the most experienced Mazda driver in the world, and we'll see how he goes to maintain the pace that Alan Moffat has said. It could be a winning pace. He's going very well, driving a very heady race. And an interesting event in a statistical sense. The leading 10, there are 5 Commodores, including the first 3, Perkins, Grice and Scott. There are 2 Mazdas. Alan Moffat's running in 5th spot, this one, and the Barry Jones car, as we see one of the Camaros having some attention to its teeth by the look of it. Looks like a dentist drill being inserted there, and a lot of work going on. The car, of course, did hit the fence earlier on. Car number 6 is the Ron Dixon, Bob Stevens entry. They've got it back in the race, which is something of a miracle after the early damage, but it's in the pits at the moment.
Moffat and Grice must be the only 2 original drivers still in the cars on the track.
Only those in contention, certainly. They'll both have to hand over and let other people finish for them.
Very soon.
Yes. Just to run through the statistics, the second Mazda is Alan Jones and Barry Jones, and then there are single entries for among the top 10. Dick Johnson and John French, who's out on the track at the moment in the Ford Falcon. They're running 4th.
31 in the pits, David Hobbs, the BMW.
Well, he is running in 7th place, and we must keep an eye on David Hobbs, going so well. The only BMW in the group, and here comes the Queensland. Yeah, the Queensland entry. Very nicely presented car, but
car number 46 has been hit.
Yeah, Ross Burbridge, is it?
Yes, Ross Burbridge and Craig Kinmonth.
Well, just creeping back into the pits, he certainly has outdistanced Gary Wilmington with the flat tyre. No, Gary's got into the pits and is changing the wheel. He looks as though he wants to go into the back. In the meantime, Alan Moffat is just circulating rapidly, neatly. I think he's out of fuel.
Yes,
he needs a push. He can't get in. He doesn't have the energy to climb the speed hump. In fact, he's made to one side to get round it.
Sybil's restaurant entry from Brisbane as needs a bit of fuel.
He could do with a second helping, I'd say. Now, there are certain limits to whether you can be pushed in without being penalised. We've seen over the years gone by some drivers making the heroic effort to get their cars in there, notably Doug Chivers, the year that he and Peter Brock lost this race when Doug ran out of fuel and had to push the car in. No assistance was allowed. There's plenty of it coming this time. He just reached the margin of the pits, and once that happens, he's okay. He's giving instructions there, behaving like a tram driver, telling him where to go. He's been pushed up to his pits. Unfortunately, he's right at the end of the pit straight, so it's a long haul for the volunteers who've run down to give him the lift into the pits. One Mazda in the pits and not circulating. Alan Moffat out on the track and going so well, running in 5th place.
Here's Alan Moffat, car number 43, the Peter Stuyvesant Mazda RX-7. The short pit straight. Car has been running extremely strong here all day, as it did last year, obviously different.
Well, Alan running in 5th place. The cars immediately behind him as we continue to watch Alan Moffat and the Mazda circulate is Hoshini, the Japanese, in the Turbo Bluebird, and then David Hobbs in the BMW. And here's David Parsons, who was running in 8th place into the pits. Whether Peter Jansen will take over, I don't know. No, Jansen's talking to him. He's certainly not kitted up for the race. They're looking under the bonnet, maybe just to check for oil. I don't know what the problem there might be. But they've got all ends open, back, front, putting fuel in there. You can see tyres going on. David Parsons, who has driven very well, the young Tasmanian, staying in the car. He's running in 8th place. The Clive Benson Brown and Gary Rogers entry, which has got up to 9th, which is remarkable, bearing in mind the problems they had. And in car number 10 is Alan Jones in car 27. So it's Benson Brown and Charlie O'Brien, I think, not as I called it. Gary Rogers, he hasn't made the top 10 yet, although he's trying desperately hard out on the track. Well, it's a fairly long stop, seeing they're not making a driver change, so one of the crew has time to polish the windscreen. As you've noted from our through the windscreen race cam shots, it gets pretty insect splattered out there. David Parsons going fairly rapidly over these speed bumps. I think a few of the drivers might be spoken to. You think after the incidents which happened at Sandown involving this driver, Alan Moffat, incident which cost him the race with 2 penalties of 1 minute each, that a few of the drivers would take those speed bumps very, very seriously. But under the stimulation of race time, they see that they've got to get back on the track and they want to save a few tenths of a second, and they go as hard as they dare. Look at the lines of Alan Moffat, really using up all the road, but not being rough on the car at all, driving with beautiful precision. Takes the right-hand line. The flag marshal signalling to the man he's overtaken that there was a fast car coming. The waved blue flag means that. If the blue flag is held stationary, it means there's a car behind you. When it's waved, it means there's someone trying to pass. The fellow soon got the message, and Moffat speared past in the peripheral ported Mazda RX-7.
Well, money's beginning to pile up. Prize money in this race too, Mike Raymond.
Yes, Gary, the first of the Wins Friction Proofing Awards, worth $500 to the overall outright leader. And the 3rd hour of the race has just been won by the Marlborough Holden dealer team, Peter Brock and Larry Perkins. They're out in front and doing quite nicely indeed. There's also another 500 going to the overall leader on the 81st lap, courtesy of Motorola Communications, and Wins Friction Proofing, of course, have similar amounts of $500 for the leader on the 4th, 5th and 6th hour.
And of course, Alan Grice picked up 1,000 for leading through the first lap, on top of his 10,000 for pole and his 5,000 for being the first man to break the 100 miles per hour average around here.
And who said it was a dog's life in the pits here at Mount Panorama?
Boom, boom.
By the way, I notice over in the recar pit, they're getting set up, ready for a pit stop. So we'll have to keep an eye on Alan Grice, because I reckon that's where the action's going to be next.
Well, if that happens and Alan Grice hands over, then it'll be this man, Alan Moffat, who will have the honour, if that's the right word, of being the longest surviving driver on the track. The others have all handed over to their co-drivers. He's going as far as he can, and then we'll let his Japanese teammate, Katayama, a highly experienced driver, take over and finish the race for him.
Grice hasn't been able to make any ground, you know, on Larry Perkins in the last 10 laps. The gap between the two of them is still 37 seconds. Perkins in front in the dealer team Commodore.
Grice stayed in the car to try and whittle that lead back. He hasn't been successful, not through want of trying, but because Perkins has driven so well. He's really done everything that Peter Brock could have asked of him. Car 41, Stephen Brook, who was sharing that black BMW with Denny Hulme, pulled over to let Alan Moffat through, did it very quickly and neatly. Moffat draws away Stephen Brook. One of the greater younger drivers in Australia, really has made his mark in series production racing. Last year in an Alpha Sud, where he won his class in every race. This year in an RX-7, which he has almost repeated the performance, except he now wins races outright. Frank Gardner invited him to join the team this year in BMW. He's driving the 635 that Jim Richards used to drive, that Alan Grice drove last year, and in fact put in the sand trap at the end of this straight, which put him and David Hobbs out of contention. So it's the older BMW that Stephen Brook and Denny Hulme are driving. The new one, with Jim Richards and the Englishman David Hobbs driving, is doing exceptionally well and right up into 7th place.
I note also that the Masterton Homes Ford, young Steve Masterton, a former Rookie of the Year winner here at Mount Panorama, still percolating quite nicely. And while we're bringing race cam pictures to you, one of his sponsors, Sydney radio station 2WS, are carrying reports from the car, so he kept busy as well.
Talking of Rookies of the Year, the man who's sharing this car with Stephen Brook is Denny Hulme. He's 46 years of age. He won the World Motor Racing Championship in 1967, and because this is his first outing at Mount Panorama, he could be Rookie of the Year, which would be a nice little bonus for Denny Hulme in what one might describe as the enjoyable twilight of his career.
3-litre class placings in the race at this stage, being led by the Nissan Bluebird of Hassimi. Second spot in that class, Barry Seaton and Don Smith in the Capri car 50, and third spot is car 54, another Capri driven by Les Gross and Alan Cant. They're the top 3 placings in the 3-litre class at this stage of the race, 75 laps down.
Stephen Brook in car number 41, the car he's sharing with Denny Hulme. He was the TAA Formula Ford champion driver. Then, because of the difficult state of motor racing in Australia in a financial sense, he couldn't afford to go from what is supposed to be the springboard to full single-seater racing. He had to step into series production cars. Drove last year in the Perrier Alpha Sud. As I said before, won his class in every race, which is an outstanding result. Then moved into a RX-7 again for Perrier this year, and Frank Gardner, one of the really wise heads of motor racing. Oh, there's Denny Hulme at the wheel, is it? No, it's not. It's Perrier. I thought it was Hulme. That's Stephen Brook at the wheel. And Frank Gardner invited him to drive in the car. He found he wasn't as quick around Mount Panorama as he would have liked. Frank Gardner said, go as fast as you feel safe doing, and when you feel better about it, go faster. He's going quickly at the moment, isn't he?
The surviving Nissan Bluebird is in the pits. Car 56, Orsino at the wheel.
So Stephen Brook, through Forest Elbow, takes the BMW 635, now 4 years of age. Has been racing here for a long time. It was the experimental car that BMW used, and in the pits the Japanese are changing over. It's Hasami getting back in the car. Hoshino has had the spell. Hoshino, the younger, taller of the drivers. They say he's a bit of a daredevil. The man behind the wheel now is the hard-headed, experienced driver. He's an engineer. He's the quick one. They're both pretty fast.
All right, we're in John French's car now, keeping in mind that John has taken over from Dick Johnson. John French, Mike Raymond. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, Mike, I can hear you.
How's everything looking out there?
Oh, the car's going superbly. There's no problem with anything at the moment.
Would you like to send a cheerio call to all your fans in Queensland?
Yes, I'd love to send a cheerio to all the people at Club 17 at David Hardie's place, where they get every race day and have a drink and hope we win.
John French, Evan Green here. I'd like you to recall what happened just a little bit further up the circuit when you were driving an Alfa Romeo many years ago, and you were involved in that crash which eliminated something like a third of the field. It was just beyond Skyline. Tell us what happened when you came over here. What was it, about 15 years ago?
1969, Evan. I went over the top, and there was everybody stopped, and I hit someone and someone hit me, and I ended up upside down.
You were hit 3 times after you went upside down.
100 times.
And do you know who was the first person to reach you? Do you remember?
Yeah, Dickie Johnson.
And how did Dick get to you?
He was looking at over the fence with his wife Julie and my wife Mari, not Dick's mother, and
he was a spectator.
Yes, and Dick put his head in the window and he said, "Are you all right, mate?" I said, "Yeah, can I get out yet?" He said, "Yeah, righto." So out I got.
And that's the way you met Dick Johnson?
I don't know. We were friends a long time before that.
Oh, it was nice to run into him then.
Yeah.
He's the only fellow who didn't run into you.
Yeah.
What's the car like on the straight, John?
Oh, it's weaves around a bit. The rear spoiler on this car isn't as good as last year's car. And you don't have quite as much time to relax. And besides, Dick's done all the hard work. I'm just trying to go as fast as I possibly can, which is not as quite as fast as Dick, but...
You've driven a lot of cars here at Bathurst, John.
Sure have, Evan.
Tell us about some.
Well, I started off here in 57 in the FJ. Graduated to Cooper S's, Alphas, and then Fords.
You're not reading that from a cue card, are you, John?
No, mate. I'm too busy.
Johnny, you've done it. It's Gary Wilkinson. You've done just about everything. I suppose you've also got the Prudential umbrella in the car with you, have you?
No. I'll need it when I get out of this, though.
We'll let you get on with the lap, John, while we take a break to have a bit of a rest, and we'll be back with the action of Mount Panorama in a few moments.
The pits in an auto race is a dirty job. engines, transmissions, rear ends, tools, grime, grit, grease, and heat. It's really a man's world. But behind the pits, it's another story, believe me, with the young ladies from all over the country coming to watch the drivers on the track, from the race queen to the representatives of the commercial companies that are in the race. Believe me, if in the pits is a man's world, behind the pits is a man's world too. Back to the box.
Yeah, we can't get him out of that spot, can we?
We've been trying to get him all afternoon. We couldn't raise him.
Steve Masterton, car number 2. A man who has only moved into the larger cars this year, was Rookie of the Year 3 years ago, drove a Capri, and then enlisted Colin Bond into the team with him. Drove for a couple of seasons, learned a lot, became one of the most professional teams in terms of presentation, have moved into a new XE Falcon, and Steve and Bruce Stewart, a veteran of many Bathurst races, are running a car that gave them some problems in practice, but they've got the car pretty nicely developed now. They're running in 14th place. And they had the idea of bringing out a man who knows what it's all about, the American Carroll Smith, who had in fact masterminded some of the successful assaults by Alan Moffat in his days with Fords. And as Jim Masterton, the father of Steve, was telling me, in a few days they saved themselves 6 months' work, such was the expertise and the brilliance of...
Gee, the red bugs are opposite.
I saw a few on the
red fireflies. There's Steve Masterton in the Masterton Homes 2WS entry.
And he's passing car 4 now. Is Alan Grice going into the pits?
Yes, it would look that way. Hold that. Check out Alan Grice.
This could be the critical stop then, as Alan Grice actually hands over. We see Masterton go by the pits, and Grice is moving into the pits for what could be the most critical stop of the race.
Alan Brown should take over.
Now, an enormous load on the shoulders of Alan Brown. I think he was getting a bit nervous about it, the man who went racing for fun and suddenly found himself in a winning team. He's helmeted up, ready to go. Alan Grice will give him instructions, tell him what the car's like, what the track is like, try and calm him down, because Alan Grice gets on very well with Alan Brown, and we'll try and relax him. He knows the pressure facing a new driver, particularly when he knows he has to try and get out there and catch, first of all, Larry Perkins, then Peter Brock. And there aren't many men on this track who could even face that challenge with any hope of making up ground on such drivers. Helping him with the seatbelts, adjusting him, talking to him all the time, calming him down. Alan Brown might own the team, might own the car, but he's the junior member of the partnership in terms of driving ability. He knows that. He respects what Alan Grice will tell him. Grice is chatting to him all the time.
Quick pit stop if they could just get Alan Brown buckled up. Yeah, now the engine is fired. Brown's ready. Grice is relieved. And the Recar Commodore goes back into the race. Car number 4. We'll check out his position on the track for you in a moment or so. 45.98 seconds. A very, very quick pit stop for Alan Grice.
And on top of the track, Steve Masterton, still circulating in the Masterton Homes Falcon XE. Beautifully presented car.
I'll never forget Jim Masterton, who is a delightful gentleman. Felt sorry for the Channel 7 commentators one day at Amaroo Park and thought our conditions were a little primitive. That built us a brand new tower, which all other media outlets have also had access to. A man very, very dedicated to the sport.
That pit stop was so quick, Mark. The Recar Commodore is still in second place on the track now with Alan Brown at the wheel.
A lot of pressure now on Alan Brown to keep the lap times up.
Right. Tyres really must have been going off badly, you know, there, because Grice lost 10 seconds in the last 7 laps on the race leader, the dealer team Commodore, and I guess that Chris Economaki, that's one of the questions you'll be asking Alan Grice, if you can get a word with him about the tyre situation. Here's Chris Economaki.
25 with Grice. Okay, right here with Alan Grice. Alan, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear, mate.
Okay, it's been a long stint for you. What kind of shape are you in?
I'm okay.
How about the car?
It's all good, except the brakes are. We're running out of pedal. You've got to pump the pedal up all the time, and it doesn't always pump up. So you're never quite certain when you arrive at a corner whether you've got a full pedal or half pedal or not much pedal. So it's something that Brownie will have to wrestle with and get used to. It took me a while to get used to it.
What's it doing to your lap time?
Well, the problem is it makes you a little inconsistent, because if you suddenly go for the pedal and you haven't got very much pedal, you haven't got very much brake there, you virtually have to throw that corner away and try and just play it safe.
and then get back on the pace. So, you know, it does upset you from time to time. I hope Brownie can cope with it okay.
Alan, what is the level of driving around the course on the part of the rest of the field?
Well, I've found it pretty good, to be quite honest. I don't know about the other blokes, what sort of runs they've had, but except for the odd occasion, I've found my passengers through being pretty good.
What about the racing surface? Dirt, oil, pebbles?
Yeah, it's certainly deteriorated in that respect, but then there's a lot of people using a lot of rubber up and cutting corners a little, I guess.
Yeah, hugging the pits.
And, you know, the surface is quite slippery, quite treacherous. Probably why so many cars have stuck it in today.
Did you have any frights, any close calls during your stint?
Yeah, I had one sort of spin at the end of the straight there when I spun out of the lead, and that was the first real problem I had with the race. I just suddenly went for the pedal and only had about half a pedal there.
Well, okay, get a good rest and hang in there. Alan Grice doing long duty here in the James Hardie 1000. Back to the box.
And after a short stint, Gary Scott, short but regulation, has brought the second of the Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodores into the pits, and now John Harvey takes over for the final segment in the 82 James Hardie 1000. It's an important stop. Everything looks okay. The mechanics on the far side say we're clear. A man just cleaning the windscreen. The last turn of fuel goes in. What? There it is now. No, don't need it. Okay, say the signalling man, the whole car is clear, and John Harvey goes out. Will Fortune ride with him at last, the man who's been one of the unluckiest drivers in the race, out for what should be his last stop. That was a quick one, 40.63 seconds. That was the fastest of the stops by the top drivers.
There's our Prudential Assurance chopper. Over there we've been joined by Prudential, of course, for this telecast, helping to track the vehicles for us.
That long antenna-like device hanging beneath it is linked with the Dick Johnson John French car, picks up the signal, which allows you to sit in that car, number 17, as it goes around the track. There are the two helicopters bringing you the telecast, Prudential on the right, 7 on the left, tracking cars, carrying cameras to bring you the action here for Mount Panorama.